Okay, good. Everyone's here. We have no absentees.
Is the city of LA going to allow this kind of stuff? Sure, it's everybody.
Mr. Naderberg, you ready?
I'm ready when you are, CD.
Okay. Here we go. All right, update by the president without objection, March 20th, sorry. The March meeting minutes have been filed. Do we have objections on that?
Point of order, you didn't call the roll yet.
We don't need to call roll.
Okay.
Everyone's here.
Cool. All right, well, let's just move on to number 3, public comments. Which ones do we have?
Streamline, efficiency.
Richard?
Well, President Pinocchio, I noticed that once again you have yet to apologize to your fellow board members and the stakeholders for your serial dishonesty. And I was just wondering, do you have any sense of shame? Or are you planning on rectifying your errors, or are you just going to continue on down the road doing things the same way you always do? I'll take it the same way as you always do.
We couldn't hear.
It's okay. Can't hear the mic.
Can we make sure, hey, Peter, is that mic on? We missed a really important
Yeah,
topic.
he just has to lean into it. You gotta just lean into it a little bit.
Vicki, do you want to come up?
Sure.
Lean in.
Hi, everybody. My name is Vicki Nussbaum. I'm the Executive Director of the Studio City Business District, and I come to speak to you a couple times before. And I just wanted to give you a couple updates tonight. One is that starting in June, we will have a bike patrol that the Studio City Business District is hiring, 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. You'll see them in orange T-shirts riding up and down Ventura Boulevard and Ventura Place. So any questions, let me know. And I also had come to you a couple months ago with the concept of a decorative crosswalk. And I have some designs from the city's design team that I just wanted to share with you. Nothing's been decided yet. Do you want me to hand out some copies?
Yeah.
Would you like to look at them?
Sure.
I don't know if I have enough for everyone. It might require
We share. We'll share.
sharing, if that's okay, every other. Pretty
We share.
So the designs that they came up with were very geometric. You'll see dots and lines and things like that. And I asked them to go back to the drawing board and see if they could come up with something that might be a little more specific to something film related. So I don't know if everybody heard, the standard design is very geometric, dots and stripes and things like that. But if you turn to the second page, I asked them to try to work on some designs that I thought might speak more to Studio City. So the second page, they turned the polka dots into film reels, if you can see that. And then if you jump to the fourth, I think in the fifth page, they also incorporate like film strips and film reels. This is very much a work in progress. I'm talking to them. I don't know if the colors all make a lot of sense. Literally hot off the press, they just sent it to me. But I had promised I'd come to you, and the deadline is before your next meeting, so I just wanted to share it with you guys, at least let you know what we're working on. Again, any comments, if you're interested in, letting me know what you think or participating in any way, just reach out and let me know. I'm kind of open. We're excited. It's going to be, again, at Ventura and Laurel Canyon.
Is there a front runner on these yet?
No, literally hot off the presses. I had them get it to me so I could show you tonight.
And who makes the final call on which one it is?
I think the Studio City Business District makes the final call, or if we can come up with a group of people. The deadline is in about 2 weeks. They just got these to me. As I said, the colors probably need some tweaking. And I was hoping to do something with film. I don't know if it's obvious enough or bold enough in these designs. If any of you are creative or artistic or have input, I'm really open to talking to anybody. Any other questions? Yeah.
I have a question. Studio City is more than just film and film reels.
Right.
Is there any discussion of a Studio City designer taking a crack at some pitches?
As far as I know, the city doesn't allow that. They have this group working on it. As I said, all they came out with at first was dots and stripes, so we could go to something generic like dots and stripes. I just said to them, hey, can you do anything that's more local? They didn't seem to be, I can find out more, is the best way to say.
I said
Yeah.
that I'm also a professional graphic designer,
Uh-huh.
and so, yeah, I would love to see more. I was hoping that we would see more designs than dots and stripes.
So was I, but that seems to be what they're doing is dots and stripes. So I went back and said, can you do anything more community specific? And this was where I got.
Once this is decided, does this just go forward?
It does, I mean, we can decline doing it, but it's not a mural, it's a crosswalk design. So as you can see, there's not quite as much creativity the way there would be in a whole mural. So it kind of has to fit in between stripes on a sidewalk. If you have ideas, you're a graphic designer, will you call me? I mean, I'm certainly open. It's just a matter of getting their team. It's all within the People Street program, so I think there may be certain parameters. Yeah, that'd be great. Anybody else?
Anyone else?
I just say Studio City is all about trees. So
I know.
work on it doesn't matter.
Palm trees was the kind of thought that I had also. Yeah, so maybe there's a way to incorporate more. Again, I can reach out to you, reach out to me. Yeah.
Hey, guys.
I don't think we should really do the board direct, maybe.
As I said, these were the colors they kind of threw at me. Yeah, I was maybe blues and green. I don't know. I'm really not very visual on this sort of thing.
Who's gonna be painting this, and how will that intersection be closed during this painting process?
I would assume the intersection would have to be closed, that they'll work with LADOT. The city themselves will be hiring people to paint it. My question to them, and I haven't gotten an answer, is will they be graffiti proofing it? Because the bid is taking on responsibility for keeping it clean. And obviously, the more we do to protect it, the better, because if we have to clean graffiti and close the intersection every time, that would be a very big nuisance to the community. So I'm hoping we can have some foresight in this.
This is a little late in the game to ask this question, but this is Laurel and Ventura?
Yeah.
So it's really just for a design, there's no purpose.
Right, purely an aesthetic, fun.
Because it would be nice to have put the painting on the crosswalks where there are people crossing a lot to kind of bring more attention to them. So it would be a design, but also a purpose, so that when someone's in a crosswalk, a driver can actually see it. There's a crosswalk, and
Well, the only place these crosswalks are allowed to be are the ones that are white zebra striped, which Ventura and Laurel is. Many of our intersections don't have those zebra stripes, so you're not even allowed to put them in. But you're saying it should be more safety oriented?
well, it would have been nice to have done both, to have it designed, a nice design, but also safety, because there's a lot of crosswalks, obviously, we know that are not so safe.
Right.
That there are problems, and we're looking to get lights and things like that, but
Yeah,
maybe
that's-
in the interim, it would have been nice to have had painted there, but.
I guess I'm just not sure what that means, what you're saying. I don't know what it is that would make a crosswalk safer with paint.
Just draw it, it's more visual, it jumps out at you that it's a crosswalk. These are pretty bright, so driving along, you'll see, instead of just the crosswalk that's there, you'll see red and orange, and it'll draw your attention to the fact there's a crosswalk there.
Oh, so this
And
does
then
serve that purpose, you're
Someone
saying?
might be in it.
Right. These are the designs, is
Yeah,
that?
no, yeah,
Okay.
okay, never, I guess.
Sorry, no,
you
no,
don't
I'm just
understand.
not understanding. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Great. So again, any questions? I know Patrick and I have emailed, and my email is on the Studio City bid website, so just be in touch.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thanks.
Rachel Tobias.
Hi guys. It's really just kind of like a public service announcement. I just want to remind everybody that Earth Day is Monday, and MetroLink is completely free to all. So get out of your cars, get into a train, and read a book, and enjoy the ride. That's all.
I love the train.
Andrew? Andrew Silver?
Doesn't go anywhere. I don't know.
Hi, I am Andrew Silver. I'm on the Homelessness Committee. And so I just wanted to honor Keith and request the board continue the Homelessness Committee. I think it's certainly one of the most important issues for the community. And I believe this body has an important role in responding to the community and addressing the homelessness issue. The neighboring neighborhood councils all have homelessness committees, and Encino does, Studio City does, North Hollywood does, Van Nuys does, and so all of your counterparts in this Southeast Valley consider this a key component of the neighborhood council program. So I believe it's important to have that voice for the community. And the role that the neighborhood council can play is making sure that you're working with the organizations LASA and LA Family Housing in ensuring accountability for the resources and making sure that they're coming to Studio City. And one of the roles that I played on the Neighborhood Council Homelessness Committee was working with LA Family Housing, and I've developed relationships with Elin Gosvick, who is the Director of Outreach, and
Andrew, can you hold on a minute? Can we try to keep it down when people are talking? Thanks.
and Chris Freed, who's the Director of Operations. They have other different titles, but that's their functional titles, so that it would be more clear. Using those relationships, I was able to get the first report for any community on the outreach services that LA Family Housing has provided in Studio City specifically. And I also work with NoHo Home Alliance, who is working with LASA, LA Housing Services Authority, to bring an additional outreach team to this area. And it's those outreach teams that connect the homeless people to the services that they need to help them ultimately get off the street and address the problems and the concerns the community has. I should say that I am on full disclosure, I am on the board of NoHo Home Alliance. And I believe that is useful because that has kept me in touch with other neighborhood councils, and it helps with the alliance with LA Family Housing and LASA. Another initiative that NoHo Home Alliance is doing is working with landlords to educate landlords on the services that LA Family Housing has, which is funded through Proposition H, to find housing for homeless people and newly homeless people, so that we can, there's direct actions that the NoHo Home Alliance and the Studio City Neighborhood Council Homelessness Committee are doing to get people off the streets. Be happy to answer any questions.
I was going to say, so for those of you who don't know, we have not replaced the homeless committee chair, and the remaining members of the committee have recommended that Mr. Silver be the new chair. Does anyone have any questions for him before we make that an official title? Yes, Mr. Zbicki.
Yeah, hi, how are you?
Hi.
So would you kind of characterize homeless, because I'm trying to understand, the homeless that I've come across seem to be involved with chemical dependency issues, alcohol dependency, and some mental illness. A lot of the programs that you're mentioning right now to support, how are those programs sort of, or how do you see those programs working with that part of the homeless aspect that we're talking about here? Not just a downtrodden, which the economic downtrodden homeless person that was maybe a victim of the financial crisis.
Yes, okay, so it's important to understand that there's, with 50,000 homeless people in the county, and roughly 30,000 of those are in the city of Los Angeles, and Studio City has our share. With that large of a population, it's a diverse group. And yes, of course, there's substance abuse and mental illness in that group. The official numbers have that roughly at 30%. And I know people are very skeptical about those numbers, and that's fine.
Why do you think they're skeptical?
Because when because when any of us are driving around, the people that we see in the parks, the people that we see, in public are often clearly mentally ill or on substances of some kind. But that doesn't count, but there's also working poor, people that live in their cars. There's a whole large population that are trying to hide the fact that they're homeless.
So, how do you feel, and I'll just wrap it up, but forget that, I understand that
Yeah.
completely, but the ones that we're encountering that seem to be the chemically dependent, drunk, or alcohol dependent and mentally ill, what do you personally feel that the programs that we're talking about right now can actually help them?
Okay, so the outreach teams that LA Family Housing and LASA have usually include a mental health worker and often just a medical health worker. So that is a key component. Now, NoHo Home Alliance has a medical team on location. They have a mental health worker on location. They have a substance abuse group on location.
Yes.
And so those issues are addressed. And that's what permanent supportive housing and bridge housing include are those services on site to provide services to the people with substance abuse and mental health issues, to get them stable so that they're not living on the street.
So if they have mental issues and substance abuse, they are accepted into the bridge housing if they're willing to go. So the ones that we see maybe that aren't willing to go, which a lot of them I've encountered, there still isn't a solution for those people.
Okay.
Well, I just want to make sure we have a totality of an understanding. I know, Patrick, thanks. I just want to make sure that before we bring someone on, that someone actually understands the totality of the problem. And that while they were talking about the downtrodden and financially unfortunate, that the other ones aren't being ignored. And there's a plan for a final solution to have them placed into some type of care.
Yeah,
And I'd like that to be addressed by your advocate.
Unfortunate.
Well, it's funny, we keep talking about the same thing here, and we just keep going in circles. 'Cause we're talking about one aspect.
The LASA and LA Family
Yes.
Housing, the service providers for this area are very cognizant of the fact that substance abuse and mental illness issues need to be addressed.
And are they being addressed?
Yes, they are.
And how?
By having mental health workers and substance abuse experts included on their outreach teams and at access centers, and are embedded in bridge housing and permanent supportive housing facilities. It's a key component of solving the problem, and nobody ignores
So
that.
it seems to be growing, so I don't know, 3.5 years
Well, I
into
don't
it.
think, I don't think
Thank
it's.
you.
I don't think
All right, well,
it's-
thank you, I appreciate
I
it.
don't think it's his fault.
Okay.
Teresa, you-
It's not a fault, it's talking about someone's vision.
Yeah, how successful is this program? Of the people that they bring in, how many actually have a successful experience and go from a bridge situation to an independent life?
Okay, so bridge housing is relatively new, so there isn't longitudinal studies for the people in bridge housing. There's 2 bridge housing facilities open now. One of them opened just in Hollywood just last week, and I toured that facility. So there isn't longitudinal studies on bridge housing. However, LA Family Housing has been operating for 35 years in North Hollywood. They have built 27 facilities that they continue to operate. And I would invite you to tour the permanent supportive housing facility that they have in North Hollywood. Their success rate is 90% of bringing people into permanent supportive housing, addressing their issues that brought them into homelessness, which can be a range of issues, but they address drug abuse and mental health issues. They have a 90% success rate in stabilizing people in permanent supportive housing. Now, when you bring people into permanent supportive housing, the reality is that the word permanent is there for a reason. Not everybody is capable of generating resources and able to pay rent. So some people stay there, but some people do move out and are able to go back into society. Now another program that LA Family Housing operates is rapid rehousing. And rapid rehousing is people who are newly homeless or the working homeless, and they work with landlords to, they will pay up to double their deposit for a homeless person that they take, and they provide the supportive services for a tenant that a landlord will take, so that any problem that the landlord may have with that tenant, they call LA Family Housing, who has their experts work with the tenant to keep them in that unit. And that program also has a 90% success rate. So LA Family Housing has a very high success rate once they get somebody off the street, keeping them off the street.
Right, so the question is, how do you get someone off the street? Because the compliance level, the compliance rate is very low.
No, I mean, we can't just have another, I know what this is gonna turn into when we all just ask the same questions we ask.
I am happy to answer questions.
This can go on for days on that, yeah.
How many people are on the homeless committee?
Well, that's what I wanted to get to,
And
yeah.
are any of them interested in being the chair of the committee? And are there any people that expressed to be on the committee that haven't been?
I was gonna say, can we have, I think Brian Carroll can best speak to that. Can we have Brian? Because honestly, we're just here to talk about whether or not we need to fill a committee chair and whether or not this is the guy to do it. Brian?
Yeah, there's what, 6 or 7 people on the homelessness
6.
committee?
Yeah.
Andrew Silver is one of them. He's been involved with the committee already. I don't know what the qualifications are to be the chair of that committee, but certainly for someone like Mr. Silver, who has clearly, even in this room, demonstrated a robust knowledge of not only the citywide issue that we're talking about, but even here in the Valley and the different programs being used, I think he's beyond qualified. And this also is the choice that the committee nominated themselves.
They did.
Yes.
And you're on the committee?
I am.
And is this a volunteer position?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Zussman, yeah.
So I was wondering, being familiar with the committee and the committee chair and so forth, and different members, what is your feeling that you could be more effective by being associated with the neighborhood council? It's an emotional topic. You get much more of a diversity of opinion, which in some ways is good, but also often counterproductive. And I know, speaking to Keith numerous times, and it's hard to speak for him now, but that he was somewhat inclined to kind of go it alone and not engage the neighborhood council for numerous reasons. And I'm just wondering, if this is something you really want and want.
Well,
Not being flippant at all, but I mean, the thing is, you're required to do so many more, Brown law and all these other things, and really, you can just come back as an independent and ask for donations and have the same people or other people involved, NoHo Alliance and so forth. I'm not sure this neighborhood council, I know you mentioned other neighborhood councils have been involved, but it's a different world. And I'm just wondering, why bother?
So one thing that, the main reason that I think it's important for Studio City Neighborhood Council to have a homelessness committee is to work with the power structure of LAHSA and LA Family Housing to bring resources here. And I think that the Neighborhood Council has a better voice to do that, speaking, elected organization to the bodies that report to the elected organizations. I think that there's a better voice coming from the Neighborhood Council than an independent person. I personally, when I approached when I approached LA Family Housing and asked for accountability on what resources they're bringing to Studio City, I think it was easier to do that as a member of the neighborhood council as opposed to just a guy who lives in the neighborhood. You know, that because they recognize they have accountability to the neighborhood council as opposed to an individual.
So you think the benefits outweigh the negatives by far? Or
Can we hold on, I'm sorry, for one more second. Can we, hold on. Can we stop with all the talking out there? Text if you need to. I'm sure you all got numbers.
do you see any negatives?
You know, working within the Brown Act is additional work. I acknowledge that. Other than, you know, additional work, no, I don't see a negative per se. I want to use it as a positive and as a voice and to bring resources and accountability to the community.
Is that satisfactory?
Yeah, by the way, there's a whole bunch of hygiene kits still left in the office that you want to distribute. But the more important stuff, when I was touring the new Simpson facility of LA Family Housing, you know, I noticed, you know, one or more eviction notices on the doors. Such a new facility, seems like they're being evicted very quickly.
I don't know anything about that.
I'm just saying there's an eviction notice on the door. I toured it.
Yeah.
And when was that? When did you do that tour?
Okay. Eric has a
Week
brief
and a half, 2
comment, and
weeks
then we're
ago.
gonna get on, we're gonna move on. Eric?
Sure. First of all, I would support Mr. Silver because I think he and Keith came to a GAC meeting or a budget meeting or something, and it was, you know, we got a chance to talk for more than 2 minutes, and, you know, I believe that there's a genuine interest in helping this population that's struggling. So that said, regarding the Brown Act, it is not a nuisance, but it's what we do. And what we do is we put stuff on an agenda, and then the public knows about it, and then we take comment on it, and then we're done. And then we're fine. But unfortunately, and I'm supportive of this, and this is because of our bylaws, you'll just be appointed. This is all just aftermarket fun, and I enjoy it. But I would look forward to a time when we do things like this and, you know, other things. We put them on the agenda so that the public knows we're doing them. So that would be an example. When you have a meeting, you just make sure you remember what you're going to do and put it on the agenda.
Yeah, and that's a good point, and I think that speaks to your point. You know, this is an area of such concern to the community, and a public meeting of the, you know, instead of everybody taking their time talking about homelessness at this meeting, we can have community members express their concerns and come to a homelessness committee meeting. And I do share specific concerns of the community with LA Family Housing and request that their outreach teams address specific situations that have been brought to my attention.
Thank you for coming. Sounds good. Yeah. We're gonna move on. Rudy, give some.
Oh, thank you. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Thank you. Board, stakeholders, my name is Rudy Melendez. I'm here as a stakeholder tonight. I just have a laundry list of things I wanted to talk about. And I haven't prepared anything, so thank you for your patience. I'm just going to do the stream of consciousness thing. Patrick, a lot of my neighbors are interested in knowing if there's going to be a candidate forum for the upcoming neighborhood council election. Also wanted to address something that was brought up on next door in my neighborhood over the past couple of weeks. We've had a homeless encampment in Walter Reed along Sarah Street in a safe school zone that many of my neighbors contacted our city councilor about, also our state representative, and we got a lot of pushback and a lot of excuses about how it was going to take 4 to 6 weeks to do anything about it. And because of my neighbors and a lot of phone calls, we had the camp cleaned up in 4 to 6 days. Now, everybody understands that homelessness is probably the biggest issue that the city is facing currently. And it's nice to hear this gentleman make his comment. I view him as maybe one of the homeless professionals that we all come to listen to. for many months now. What's most concerning to me is that in our neighborhood, we never see these outreach teams come and offer any services. So I'm here to address that. I wanted to point out that there doesn't appear to be anyone here from the county representing Sheila Kuehl. And I don't know if she has anyone here, or if anyone's been here, but maybe our other government officials could communicate with them, because we'd like to see her people here so that they can address that issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Barry?
Just regarding the crosswalks, I've seen where things have been painted in the area contained within the 4 crosswalks, and I would think leave the 4 crosswalks striping as it is and paint something within it. Frankly, I just looked at the city's design for actual in the crosswalks, and I think they all look Mickey Mouse. But do something in the center. Go from the center and have palm trees coming out or something like that, because somebody mentioned palm trees for Studio City. But do it in the center square. Don't do it on the crosswalks.
Thank you. All right.
And one other thing.
Yep.
I'm going to go on the Metrolink for free on Monday from the Burbank station near Olive and 5, and I think I may go to the Huell Hauser Museum in the city of Orange, and I will do so for free.
That's so cool. I'm actually gonna look into that.
Great. We good on public comment?
I like Hugh Hauser.
I have public comment.
You,
Who's
yes.
coming?
Ava?
Yes.
Ava, yes. Welcome
I
back.
have been here the past couple of meetings to talk to you all about some monthly crime reports from the website that I work for called Crosstown LA, which is a data journalism website that does crime and traffic news, and we're interested in continuing a monthly partnership with you all and funding monthly reports. So I brought a monthly report to the last meeting and sent that to Patrick as well as Mike Piscatelli. And
Patrick dropped the ball on that one, didn't you?
huh?
Did I drop the ball on that?
Yes.
I did. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's great. That's why I'm here right now.
Okay.
But just here to reaffirm our interest in partnering with you all on creating these monthly crime reports. So we can talk more about that, Patrick and Mike as well, because it seemed like you guys had some interest in the crime reports. And they have 6 sections that include monthly reports on total crime, top 10 crimes for the past, top 10 crimes for the month, total crimes in the past 6 months, and trends on that, trends on assorted thefts for the past 6 months, trends on assorted assaults for the past 6 months, blotter crimes, so crimes of interest, and adjacent neighborhood crime counts. So if you're still interested, sure, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was
No,
just saying.
we're not going to do talk
Back
backs
to
to everybody. Andrew's just a specific one because he was up for committee chair.
Right,
But
but she
remember-
might look into next door.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have looked into next door. This is, official numbers
Is
from
this something we
LAPD.
get to pay for?
No, yeah.
Yes, hopefully it would be, for our time, data research and services.
We'll put you in budget committee this month, I swear.
Yes,
Yes.
that would be great.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to number 4, treasurer report. Mr. Richard Welch, take it away.
The link to the monthly expenditure report for March was included in the agenda. Assume everybody's studied it thoroughly and that there are no questions, but if there are, I will be happy to answer any of them. Any questions? Then I would suggest we move to the vote. On the motion, the board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council has reviewed the monthly expenditure report for March 2019 and hereby accepts and approves the report as presented.
We got to do a roll call on this, so
Correct.
let's take it away.
Okay, Ryan Carroll.
Yes.
Richard Welch.
Yes.
Sabrina, yes. Patrice.
Yes.
Claire.
Yes.
Alex.
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes.
Heidi.
Yes.
Janine. Marcia. Yes. Richard. Huber.
Yep.
Jesse.
Yes.
Eric.
Nope.
Andrew.
Of course.
Denise.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, let's go on to number 5, budget report, Mr. Richard Welch.
Okay, so We have, again, there was some supporting information that was linked to on the agenda. Again, I'm assuming everybody has studied it thoroughly. The primary budget issue that we have right now relative to our work before us this evening is the fact that we have used up all of our allocated, all of our self-allocated funds for neighborhood purpose grants. Okay, there are 3 categories that the city clerk wants us to be in balance for our budget. Those categories are community improvement project, neighborhood purpose grants, and then general and operational expenses, which can include subsets, office expenses, outreach, and elections. So if you've looked at that backup that I had submitted, you'll see that the unspent balance for neighborhood purpose grants is 0, for example, and community improvement projects, which we have not had any requests for, and we don't anticipate any requests for community improvement project funding, we have a balance of $2,000. So,
balance of more than that.
that was our total, our overall our overall funds is more than $2,000, right? But in one of the categories that the city clerk asks us to track and stay to, community improvement projects, we have $2,000 allocated that we won't likely use. So I'm proposing that we basically move that money into the neighborhood purpose grant money, so we have funds to consider for the next item. Additionally, we have, so at some point, I forget when, but we were given another $200 by the city. I think that all of the neighborhood councils got an additional $200. Our original allocation didn't include that $200. We had allocated $42,000. So I'm saying that we should also, or suggesting that we should also put that $200 into the neighborhood purpose grants, just as a clean way of dealing with that money.
So let me just sum this up real quick for everybody. So the MPGs are something that schools and other things can request from us. The CIPs are things that more often come from things like Studio City Beautification Association and whatnot. So basically, we have a request from Carpenter. We don't have any room left in the MPGs, and we don't have any CIP requests. So all we're asking is that we just move. This is a budget that we came up with ourselves. So we're just amending the budget that we already created. This is just a technicality so that we can get on to 5B. Does that make sense, everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the $200 that was originally unallocated, right? So that's a good summary, Patrick, yeah.
Do we have any, what's it? Richard, you want to read that motion?
Yeah,
I have a comment.
Motion 5A.
Hold on, I have a comment.
No, we'll get there. We're reading a motion.
Oh, okay, before you vote.
The motion 5A, the Studio City Neighborhood Council approves the fiscal year 2018-2019 amended budget attached, but that's basically the $2,200 that we've just discussed. That's the difference.
I need a second.
Second.
Brian, second. Do we have public comments on this?
Of course. I would point out that we are violating various levels of public transparency here. There are no budgets back there on the table for any of the stakeholders to see for this meeting. Also, I was under the impression that under the NC funding laws, this had to be considered and brought forward from a budget committee meeting, which at the last budget committee meeting, there was commitment made that you would be having one of those before this meeting, so everything be done according to Hoyle properly and correctly. And this is my stunned and amazed face that you didn't actually do that. So I just want to point out that you're breaking the rules yet again and still. It's wildly inappropriate, it's wrong, and the fact that you're lazy doesn't make it right.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, board comments. Eric?
Yeah. We're constantly told that it doesn't matter what category the money's in, and we can always change it. So this is an example of changing it, which is fine. And I support the Carpenter thing coming up. But what I want to make clear is that our budget of $42,000 or whatever it is per year, it has been determined by the city that up to $10,000 can remain and roll over. So whereas we can fund these things, we should all be aware that there's no rush to spend the way there used to be. There is a rush to get an expenditure request in by May 20th so that it can be, and we don't have another board meeting. So I think we should move forward on the Carpenter. But I just wanted to put that to rest, that I believe that that's the rule, that the people at the city are saying that that's the rule, that they're going to, make that official, and it is official until they tell us otherwise. So that's how we should behave, with knowledge that our up to 10,000 can roll over. So they'll sweep out everything, but leave 10,000 at the end if you don't.
Well, if you'll indulge me just for a moment, I think that's a good point. And we're really not talking about an effort to expend all of our funds. I think that rolling over is a fine strategy. We can do it now, yes. So it's really just a matter of making sure that we can cover this NPG that's in front of us, rather than an objective to spend that last $2,000.
There's still money left theoretically in the CIP budget, and we are asking for 2,000 to be moved over, which coincidentally happens to be the exact same amount that 5B is asking.
2,080.
Okay. Anyone else? Board comments? Cool. Should we vote on this?
Roll call?
Yep.
Brian Carroll?
Yes.
Richard Welsh?
Yes.
Patrice?
Yes.
Claire? Yes. Alex?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Heidi?
Yes.
Janine?
Yes.
Marcia?
Yes.
Richard?
Yeah.
Jesse?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Denise?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay.
That was unanimous?
Yeah.
All right, 5B. All right, so we had a request from Carpenter Charter for some materials which would support their STEM program, VEX robotics kits, and components, and some outdoor laboratory, outdoor classroom umbrellas and base weights. It's a total request of $2,080. We have now $2,200. Remember, now we have $2,200 in our neighborhood purpose grant funding. So we might consider using that entire amount for this request. But I think the request is pretty straightforward. We've given in past years to Carpenter before. I don't know if there's anybody from Carpenter.
No, so I'll speak to that real quick. Carpenter is in the middle of spring break, as all LAUSD is right now. Principal Martinez had a planned vacation, he's out of town. Their science teachers are also just out of town. It just happened to be spring break for them. This is in line with what we've given to other schools. I don't want to use the word "oh," but if you want to use the word "oh," we owe Carpenter one more of these to make sure that we're balanced with all the other schools that we've given to in the time that we've all been on the board. I urge them to come forward with something more like this, as opposed to, if you remember last time we gave money to them, it was for increased security gates. And I said, let's try to get a little bit more educational oriented on this one. We gave to them for that diversity training program that they had. We gave to them for security gates, and now this is their, what's it?
Benches.
Benches was for Rio.
Benches was for
Rio Vista.
Rio Vista.
Before that.
Right.
Oh, that was
We
the
give
first
them
request.
benches?
That was the first year.
Yeah.
You're right, I think that was the first year.
We gave Rio
We're
Vista.
supposed
But it's
to,
fine,
we
that's
looked
3
for, I
years.
don't have it all right in my brain right now, but this is, if we want to keep level with all the different schools. We good over there?
Yeah, should we have a report on what we give to the schools annually so we know exactly?
Richard?
Sure. Well, this year we gave to Rio Vista.
I know, but the problem is it's the last 3 years we've been in office.
Well, that's all a matter of public record as it's been discussed. If you're curious about it, I would recommend you to look it up.
Right, I am curious about it. I asked 3 weeks ago about it, so there's no report. We can move forward. I'll support Carpenter any day. Sure.
That's great.
I think we should get reports for transparency so the public knows which schools are getting what in the future.
So we should vote on this. Yeah.
But I would propose to amend the amount to $2,200 to then zero out our NPG that we're.
Brian, do you want to second that?
Second.
So, do you want to read the new motion?
Yeah, the Studio City Neighborhood Council approves an NPG to Carpenter Charter School Science Lab in the amount of $2,200.
And that's a roll call vote?
Correct.
Brian?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Patrice?
So this is to pass a motion or to change it to the 20?
This is to give the money.
The motion as amended for 2,200.
Okay, yes.
So there's no choice, you can't vote for the original, because the original was like,
2080?
no, it was originally 1980 when
It
it
was-
came
The
through.
motion on the agenda was for 2080.
Right, but it jumped up, but since they submitted
It
it.
jumped up.
I know, but now we're jumping it up $200, so.
Hold on. The math was incorrect originally.
Oh.
So if you look at the math and then you add up the sum of the individual line items, it came out to 20. It came out to 20.
Right, so it was a different sum the first time when I saw it.
That is
At least I'm
correct.
not crazy, thank you.
Well, that's not evidence
Okay,
of any problem.
let's keep on with the vote.
Are we gonna,
2200.
we're not discussing? No.
Do you want to, Alex, do you have something to add?
Well, yeah, you know.
Do you think the city should pay for it? We know.
No, I think we should go for the original amount. That would be my motion, not to bump it
I
up
don't
to
think the
2,200.
city, I mean, we are the city. I mean, theoretically, we're the general fund. That's what we're becoming. I mean, we're diverting monies that are intended to help our stakeholders, including Carpenter, but I think, our city has a responsibility to make sure some of these rudimentary things are taken care of. And when we allow them to get away with not taking care of it and they lean on us to do it, which on a righteous level, it is the way we should do it, and I'm gonna approve it. But the more we allow this to happen, the less we're going to lay off the city for doing what it needs to do with the monies that it makes, and it doesn't have a lot of revenue to take care of these things. So I will approve it, but I find it absolutely disdainful and just not right. But anyway, that's fine.
Okay, hold on, we're gonna real quick take a vote on whether or not we want to accept the amendment. Hold on, I swear, everyone can put your hands down. I'll get to you. We're gonna take a hand vote on whether or not we approve of the amendment to adjust the number to 2,200. All in favor? Okay, so that passes. Mr. Sussman?
Yeah, so, I know we try to balance the schools, and I think it's a good cause, but Carpenter is not equal to the other schools. It is a very wealthy school. Their fundraising is off the charts. They have a lot of money, they raise a lot of money, so I don't have a problem by giving more to other schools that might be needed to balance up. I will vote for this.
Yeah.
But I just want to be aware that Carpenter has far more resources to raise money than some of the other schools.
Yes. Hold on, Gibson's about to whisper something in my. Yes, Gibson.
Yes.
Look at what it is, it's toys.
We've done that many, many times. So apparently we've got it wrong.
I'm just pissed that you jumped.
There's no budget. They're not done. I just looked it up. It's not online, it's nowhere.
We did it Tuesday.
I mean, we do it all the time. Yeah, we
Okay, so then, hey, Richard, we'll just stick with 2080.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, keep it simple, right? I mean,
We'll just stick with 2080 then. Okay. Lisa, do you have something?
I called the
No.
question.
Denise?
I called the question.
Okay, good. Question's been called.
Wait a minute.
Let's just go on the original.
Yes, sir.
Okay, what Alex was saying about city involved, city is not involved. The school district is a district, like a mosquito thing, a transit district like Metro, or anything of that nature. The city funds are not supposed to be used directly on schools at all. The school district funds are supposed to be. So as much as it has merit, I think that Alex was technically incorrect when it comes to who should make it money.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and vote on this.
Were you going to have public comment on it first?
We weren't privy to your conversation, so make clear what we're voting on.
So I'll read the motion again. Motion 5B, the Studio City Neighborhood Council approves NPG to Carpenter Charter School Science Lab in the amount of $2,080.
Okay, do we have public comment on this? Mr. Adams?
Thank you for allowing me to exercise my constitutional right. My government to address some grievances. Where's this $120 extra that you're giving them going to go?
Oh, I don't know if you heard, we just said we weren't doing that.
That was what we.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that part.
That's all right.
Okay.
Tune in.
We're back to 2080, which is the amount on the agenda.
Okay, because, you know, you're supposed to be accountable for the funds. We have to know where they're going. You have to vote to approve where they're going.
Yeah, next.
And dropping in the tip jar for the teacher's lounge isn't cool.
The next board meeting.
Do we have any
we'll
other public
address that
comment on this
NPT.
before we're gonna vote? Richard?
Good, and by the way, I'm glad to see them doing something with robotics and stuff instead of cart or cables or whatever. Then you have one of these big little metal robot that'll put his parents out.
Maybe they can go for my reimbursement. That's a good idea.
Okay.
See, they replaced the quacks at the VA.
Okay, votes been called.
Yes. Let's
Okay,
do it.
we're gonna start from the top.
Sure.
The original motion on the agenda. Brian?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Nancy? Patrice?
Yes.
Claire?
Yes.
Alex?
No.
Lisa?
Yes.
Heidi?
Yes.
Janine?
Yes.
Marcia?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Jesse?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Denise?
Yes.
Motion passes with one objection.
Okay, Jessica is not here this evening as she's helping with a Passover thing for the council member. So we're gonna go ahead and move on from 6 and have Vanessa come on up.
I'd be happy to give a CD2 report.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Just a couple, talked to some of you guys throughout the week and some of the stakeholders here today. Let me just start with an event update because I'll be talking about the Sarah Street, Caltrans issue on Sarah Street afterwards. But on Thursday, April 25th, we are hosting a Real ID workshop in conjunction with the California DMV. So we actually have representatives from the California DMV there to talk about the Real ID. If people have questions about it, I know there's a lot of confusion about, what kind of documents you need to bring, and how many documents. I know I had to do it a couple of weeks ago. It's kind of confusing. We'll have them on hand to answer your questions. They'll also be there available to answer any questions that you might have about DMV. The only issue is they're not issuing Real IDs on site, so you still unfortunately have to go to the DMV. Sorry about that. It's just protocol because you have to actually give your fingerprint and stuff to get it. So fortunately, they can't do that on site. But I left flyers in the back for anyone who's interested, and it's on Thursday, April 25th. Now the fun part. So yeah, I've spoken to several, members of the community about Sarah Street between Farmdale and Camellia on the Caltrans property side of the 101. I know that there's been, Caltrans construction happening there for some time now. I can share a couple of updates. So that construction project is basically an irrigation project. They're just doing some irrigation updates. And then a lot of the project got delayed because of the heavy rainstorms that we've just had. So a lot of the Caltrans projects throughout the county of Los Angeles have been delayed just because of the heavy rains. But, they're now, sort of back on schedule. But we're hoping that they get completed before the summer starts, but our office is in readily a lot of contact with them, just making sure that the community is aware of the issues in that area. Our office is obviously aware of the encampment, so is Caltrans, and so CHP in our office has had numerous conversations with Caltrans and CHP. So this week, actually had a conversation with our Caltrans representative who informed me that they are going to do a major cleanup in that area from May 1st to the 9th. So if any neighbors live in that area, you expect to see Caltrans there from May 1st to the 9th. Basically, they're going to do a major clearing of some excess brush and weeds and foliage that have, provided a lot of concealment for the encampments in that area.
Can you just specify the area again? I'm
Yeah.
a little confused. Which area is it?
Sarah Street. Sarah Street. It's between Farmdale Avenue and Camellia. I guess the major cross street is Colfax and Tahunga, and along Sarah Street. But the main areas, there's the construction zone happening, and if you I've driven past. I've actually visited the site myself like 3 times in the past 3 weeks. And you can't see it. You can't see the encampment. It's hidden, kind of in the leaves and the brush. So Caltrans decided, after speaking with CHP, after speaking to numerous neighbors in the area, that the best solution at this time is to clear some of that excess brush and weeds and foliage, so it'll deter encampments from being built up in that area. But again, our office did relay the message that trees are incredibly important to this community. And so we told them, do not touch those trees. If you touch them, we're gonna have a lot of issues. Our office is actually working really hard to actually bring a Caltrans rep to Studio City Neighborhood Council next month. So I'll be in talks with Patrick about maybe getting them on the agenda, but they did ask that if you would like a Caltrans representative to come here, if you guys can submit a list of questions that they should prepare for, so we can, so I can send that to them and they can prepare their, most likely going to be a maintenance worker who does a lot of the encampment cleanups in the area, to be able to answer some of your questions. I know that's a big issue in this area, and we're happy to work with Caltrans to bring someone here to answer your questions. But as I said again, the only issue with encampment cleanups is it's not permanent. A lot of the time, those encampments come back 2 hours later after cleanup occurs, and our office has submitted several requests to have that area cleaned up in pretty much the last couple of months. And Caltrans has done several cleanups in that area, but it's never actually deterred the issue. So they're hoping that clearing some of the brush will help deter it, but it's not necessarily a permanent solution. Obviously, with any encampment on city or state property, they come back, and that's just how it goes until we build housing, permanent supportive housing, bridge housing, and shelters to, house these populations of people. It's kind of the only solution at this point, and the assembly member understands that, and he's doing his part by introducing, his armories bill about opening up those state armories to provide more year-long shelter and housing for our homeless populations, because right now they're kind of empty during times when the National Guard's not using them. So let's use them. Let's make use of those spaces that we do have and that the state owns, and let's open them up. So I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has them.
Well, let's start with public first.
Yeah.
Commissioner Melendez? Yes, please, I'd like to respond. Thank you for being here and addressing this issue. I just wanted to clarify, I live in this neighborhood that we're speaking about. And just to be clear, I think a lot of people know Sarah Street runs further than just Farmdale Camellia. It actually runs, the area that I'm familiar with is Tahunga to Laurel Canyon, which is part of the Studio City Neighborhood Council boundary. That's the area of concern. The specific hotspot that we dealt with is Farmdale to Camellia. There was a homeless encampment behind the fence. The fence was opened up for this Caltrans project that started last year. The project's lasted for over 10 months. We haven't seen workers in our neighborhood doing any work in this spot for the last couple of weeks. Once in a while, we'll see a truck. The problem was that they opened up the fence to do the work, and then they left the fence open. People moved in, they set up shop there. Eventually, the homeless left, but the camp stayed, and it needed to be cleaned up. This particular camp is in a safe school zone, right near Walter Reed Middle School. There's another camp right now currently, it's on Tahunga, between the freeway overpasses. That's has been neglected, and as you continue north up to the 5-way intersection at the 170, that area has been of particular concern. That's outside of the SCNC boundary, so I won't talk about that here now. But just to be aware, there are also additional Caltrans projects further down Sarah, west of Colfax, between Colfax and Laurel Canyon. And it's never been clear to us in the neighborhood what the projects were. We've heard it's soil conservation, water. Right now in this particular project in my neighborhood, there's standing water in there. My neighbors are concerned that there's going to be breeding mosquitoes this year because we've had a lot of wet weather. I understand the project's been delayed because of the rain, but there's not people working there right now. There weren't people today. There weren't people yesterday. There's a crew down the street finally working on one of the other projects. There's about 4 in this stretch, and we never see the crews there working. So I doubt if it's going to be completed before the summer, but I appreciate you if you would stay on them about it because
Absolutely.
we need your help.
No, absolutely.
My neighbors are frustrated about it. And I understand it's not a permanent solution, but it's part of the issues. The first thing, we have to get these people off the freeway, and we have to get these areas cleaned up. That's what our neighbors want. We don't have the answers to homelessness and how we're going to solve that, but that's absolutely something that has to happen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that was one of the reasons why Caltrans suggested, clearing the brush, just to deter a little bit of, the concealment.
I appreciate that, and that's super overdue. And I apologize, that's the last thing I'll say. It's long overdue to have those
Absolutely.
areas beautified. Everybody agrees with that. The biggest concern now with the work that's being done is the deforestation. Our neighbors want the trees to stay in place. And we understand there are some issues with the sound wall that's going up, and some things are gonna have to be cleared out, and we understand some things are gonna be replanted. But let's get everybody together and deal with this, because we want our community cleaned up. We don't want to walk past this trash every day, all day long. You guys have to deal with it, and we want accountability. We want the county to be here.
Well, I mean, at least in terms of the
We want the
county.
city councilor to be here. We want the state representative to be here.
No, I was just gonna say,
I know that you're with Nazarian's office, and I appreciate that you're here, but you have to work with all these other agencies to get them to deal with this. Thank you.
yeah, no, I was just gonna say, the state of California has the same directives as the city of Los Angeles when it comes to dealing with homeless encampments. So one of the reasons why we do say it takes 4 to 6 weeks, because we have to take into account the fact that we have to, give notice to these folks who live on these encampments. We have to give them time to collect their belongings.
Alec, can you
Like,
keep it down over there while other people are talking? I hear you saying blah, 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 and it's rude.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Everyone hears you saying blah, blah, blah.
I hear you say a lot of things that I don't know
He's
what
the
you're talking
president,
about.
Alex. Please be quiet.
That's okay.
We're good, everyone's good here.
It's hard to
Who else? Yes, in the back.
I'll speak.
I'm not too sure what part you mean by cleaning up, but actually by clearing brush, you leave, if I'm not too sure it's particular topography, well, but by clearing brush, you actually allow more space. They have to come emboldened out of desperation or out of certain tolerances, but in a manner of speaking, if that particular brush is dry, like west of Balboa, which is south of the Orange Line, which is Chaparral, and there's like maybe homeless, that they should bulldoze. That's Encino's council problem, but they should bulldoze, an X and a circle or something, because that's the same kind of fragrance that happened in Bel Air. But I mean, I'm not too sure, but then actually by clearing it, you're kind of doing them a service, because I wouldn't want to, I know it's cleared, but they don't really care, because law enforcement doesn't do any business. Oh, by the way, if you do clear up, you do have law enforcement available, they could be nasty. I mean, what do they have to lose, I mean, have law enforcement available. Now, really, they could be nasty. I wouldn't mess with them, Takes two to tango, and I'm quiet.
Thank you. Hold on, we're gonna talk to Rachel.
I'm the head of the neighborhood watch of that neighborhood, and I can confirm with the gentleman over here that that is in fact been an issue longer than a year.
Yeah.
So whatever saying that the rain is a deterrent is a falsehood. It would be very much appreciated if we move forward with getting that fence back up, because that is the reason why that encampment moved in.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand that, and the fence was basically just removed because that was how the Caltrans workers got their trucks in there.
Sure.
And the Caltrans representative assured me that that fence is going immediately back up once that construction is complete. And our office said that fence needs to go up as soon as possible. It's just difficult because they're still working on that project. But no, we are definitely aware of that. Yeah.
Barry?
And I can actually do this in 1 minute. I appreciate what you said about the trees, some light pruning. Don't forget, there are also 60-year-old mature shrubs there that could stand some pruning but not removing, and I fear that Caltrans will just start pulling them out. The other thing I just wanted to add for a light note for trivia, 101 trivia. If you're ever on the 101, when they started building west from Tahunga in 1960, they first built the overpasses. And if you look at the overpasses at Radford and Laurel Canyon, they were only 3 lanes wide, and both under and above, you can see where they added the 4th, because even back then, they thought they were gonna do 3 lanes all the way out to Topanga, and they realized then they couldn't do it, and as you know now, those 4 lanes have been squeezed into 5. Just your trivia for the night.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, as somebody who spent an awful lot of their life inside National Guard armories, either for the entire weekend or leaving and coming back after an extended fun-filled excursion in the great outdoors, I would hope that the Assemblyman's bill is being written in a way that ensures that the readiness and abilities of the California National Guard are not compromised by taking care of a bunch of vagrants. I mean,
absolutely.
We come back looking like vagrants, but, you know, that's different.
No, absolutely. We are actually, in talks with the National Guard too. The bill has a stipulation that says, in support of the National Guard, if they need to use those facilities, they get priority.
Okay, and then one other thing, goes back to an email I exchanged with you and with Jessica and the rest of CD2 about the signage on the bridges, and probably would do just as well to go all along the fence, whatever they require, so that from now on, if they set up a population in there, they can be immediately evicted for trespassing.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to that a little bit right now. As I was saying, this is CHP and Caltrans have the same, directives that LA city officials and LAPD have to follow when addressing homeless encampments. So even if there are signs posted, it's technically not illegal to sleep on state property or city property. There was a lawsuit against the city of Los Angeles and other major cities in the state of California, but also against the state of California, that basically said that you cannot criminalize life-sustaining activities, and that includes sleeping. So it makes it really difficult. And again, we have to follow the same directives as we have to give them prior notice. We have to give them time to collect their belongings. We have to give them time to store their belongings. A lot of times Caltrans has to store their belongings on Caltrans work sites when they do the cleanups, and then return them when they want them back. So it's a very long and difficult process. So that's why we do say 4 to 6 weeks, because we actually have to give the notice in person. A lot of the time, we can't just leave it anywhere. We have to hand it to somebody. So it gets a little bit difficult, but we're hoping that clearing some of this area will help to deter that, at least on Sarah Street. But again, please keep me on top of things. I'm always happy to talk to everyone here. I'm always available. I'm usually pretty fast at responding to everybody, so correct me if I'm wrong, though.
No, we're going to hear from the board real quick there. Sure. Yeah. Good job. Near the Hollywood Bowl parking lot, there's a Caltrans area where there is also some shrubbery that needs attention.
Okay.
But also, if you could convey to the Nazarian that, a little bit of dignity becomes contagious. And if you could speak with Procorian, who we've already spoken with about the possibility of a mobile pit stop over there, because just yesterday, people don't have a place to crack a leak, and then the place starts to smell. So it would really be great if we could team together. There's a lot of money swirling around for homeless emergency and stuff, and there's a great spot that's over in the metro, and I think we've been over it, but I just want to mention that it's important, and that would be great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Alex?
Yeah, thanks for your email today regarding the lighted,
Yeah.
on the overpasses, I noticed the lights are there, and they're not on. So, we have a very dangerous scenario now, and now that you've been kind of made notice, if someone does get hit or assaulted, the state's responsible, so is the city. So how quickly can we get that?
So I just sent out a request today, and I also forwarded on to our direct Caltrans representative. So I just got it. I got it in late. I got it like 4 p.m. So they just closed at 5. No, I will definitely let you know. I also didn't notice that there were lights on the overpasses, to be honest.
I'm just curious, when you're cleaning out these encampments and cleaning up after them, does anybody follow where they're going?
So when they do encampment cleanups, they do LA Family Housing and LASA service connectors are on site as well. So just like when they address city encampments, LASA and LA Family Services do get involved. So, but I don't necessarily know about that. I don't know if they know where they're going, but usually they do come back. That's all I know, is that they usually come back.
Thank you. Good.
I just wanted to say that I was a little surprised, and I really can understand
this community on Sarah Street being so
Can you speak
concerned.
a little bit louder?
Oh, sorry. I can understand the community on Sarah Street being really concerned. Why would Caltrans be allowed to open up a gate or a part of the fence and not just have it be like on any construction site where there's a wire gate that opens and closes, so when they come to work, they open it, and when they finish, they close it up? That would be, I mean, I can understand, I would be really upset if I was in that neighborhood and that was just left.
Yeah, well, I know that from the videos I've seen, a lot of the people who do live in that area have been jumping on the, those protectors, those dividers between the streets, those water jug things that are.
Rachel,
They're barrels.
is it
The
Rachel?
barrels, yeah, I'm sorry. People have been jumping, using the barrels to jump over the fence.
But she definitely said, Rachel, who's the gate, that there was not, that there was a gaping hole.
Yeah, so the gate is Caltrans property, so that is their gate.
It's
So
a
they
chain link
technically,
But
they.
that just
yeah.
seems like it would be like safety 101
Yes.
on any construction site, and it's allowed a situation.
Usually, it's technically blocked by one of those dividers, but obviously people jump over those dividers and they get through. So it's not an ideal situation. I think they just do it because they technically still need to drive their equipment into the site, and it is only a wire fence, so it kind of there's no way to close it temporarily. The locks don't really help. They don't really lock gates.
That they've closed it and people have broken through the locks?
No, there's no locks. It's literally just a hole in the wire fence.
That should be really a systemic thing at Caltrans, that you don't see a construction site that there isn't, heavy equipment that goes on it, and there's gates that are very closed and secure and shut when the crew is done, and it exposes that neighborhood, and it's not safe for children. I mean, there's a lot of things. I know that's not your office.
I know, but I'm happy to take it back. No, this is actually very useful. Again, if you can put this in like a list of questions, so I can take it back to our Caltrans rep, because I really do want to get them here. I do want to get them in front of the board.
She's fully correct, and the term she uses is controlled access.
Yes.
Okay. That the community, and actually for safety and security, primarily safety, like all construction sites, it has to have controlled access, controlled and secured access. That's their obligation.
And by the way, just one thing about, I know Alex had mentioned the overhead passes. I happen to live right by Coldwater, and that freeway overpass, it has been on.
Oh.
So if you did an action on that from last meeting, it's been on pretty continuously.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
just,
Great.
And pretty clean there.
Yeah, no, and
Good,
well,
good.
all the lights were on.
Okay, then it
I
worked.
can happily report that, all the lights.
Now Laurel.
Right?
Always good to see you. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Ms. Porter?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
We'll see you next time. Okay, we're gonna go on to public safety by Mike, Italian last name. Mike Piscatelli.
You got it right.
Got it.
Evening, everybody. For the record, the fences along the Tahunga and Ventura work exceptionally well when we put them up about a year and a half or so ago. Let me just structure this for a second. So I didn't get a chance to talk to you all last time I was here, so I'll just kind of rehash quickly a little bit. So, I'm Michael Piscatelli. I am the new chair of the Studio City Neighborhood Council Public Safety Committee. As we restructure the Public Safety Committee after the departure of Craig Radow, I just wanted to give the Neighborhood Council an update from our second meeting. The committee is staying intact with a few new creative minds joining the conversation, and here's the direction that we're heading. We have a variety of ideas that encompass long-range as well as medium and short-range goals, which include community outreach to let them know about things like the trespass arrest warrant, which not too many people know about, but can fill out for businesses or for homeowners. So the LAPD can be helped out in removing people from property when nobody's around. With that, our social media for the committee is up and running, and this is what we'll use to get the word out. Our Twitter and Instagram handles are Studio City PS. Again, that's at Studio City PS. And our Facebook group is facebook.com/groups/Studio City PS. The main reason is to get information out about the area or events we may be having or our own tips for safety. At times, we'll partner with LAPD to film minor informational tips and tricks with officers for more impact. Captain Graham with the LAPD has signed off on us partnering to do this with us. We plan on integrating LA's resilience program into our work and place focus on emergency preparedness, which includes CERT training, and have Studio City be a beta tester for a new app that keeps people in contact when all cell towers have gone down via packet hopping data on our cell phones. This is something that Malibu could have used during the recent fires, and we just want Studio City to be prepared for any emergency. We have the National Night Out on August 6th, which will also be inclusive of a safety event with local businesses who are safety-minded, security, and all of that. We will have speakers like the 911 call center operator, Todd Austin. And for these, we may want to team up with Eric, who has an outstanding open forum on Friday nights at the library. If nobody knows about this, I know you're doing it as well, Brian. Friday nights at Studio City Library, wonderful open mic there. With that said, really would like to join with our homeless committee, and congrats to Andrew Silver. We'd like to join with Andrew, as well as the other committee members, in coming up with a common ground singular voice guideline for stakeholders, which we will present to the board at a future meeting, which speaks to both compassion for the homeless and safety for the citizens. With this, we should be able to take a stand as a community and better press our elected officials for the change we need, and we look forward to working with the Homeless Committee on this matter and with Andrew. Moving ahead, we will now bring our first motion to the board, which is a simple and easy way to quickly clean up our community that I hope both the board and our LA Council Member's Office will support. So, with that said, businesses making money in our community have a responsibility to keep the area clean and safe if those same businesses have practices which adversely affect the surrounding community. The spread of trash and filth around our community by shopping carts taking off business property costs taxpayers money in constant cleanups, wasted resources, and is a continued health hazard easily controlled by current technology. As is written, many of our large establishments using shopping carts are already in breach of this law by not containing their carts on the premises. We wish to amend the law and hold each current business to compliance with the law as written. That law is ordinance number 182121 of the LA Municipal Code, and here we are at our wonderful motion. So, should I read this? Should I? What
Yes, sir, Mr. Italian.
The Italian, okay. Okay, so, all right. Sorry, I got all these things. I'll try to break it down just very briefly. Sorry, Nancy. So the ordinance 182121 talks about shopping carts. Its purpose in this is to prevent or reduce the accumulation of shopping carts abandoned in the neighborhoods. Abandoned shopping carts cause visual blight in neighborhoods, reduce property values in communities, obstruct pedestrian and vehicular traffic in the public rights of way, and constitute a hazard to the health, safety, and general welfare of the public throughout the city of Los Angeles. So off the bat, I'd like to amend this first part. This would be F1. 1F2B describes bullets that are installed to restrict removal of shopping carts from the premises. This is just premised that this is not the case, and it can be seen with the numerous carts found dumped along roads in the neighborhoods. So beginning, we request an amendment to what I just read, 1F1, the purpose, which will strike any new retail establishment or the major remodel of a retail establishment and simply replace that with any retail establishment. So the new one will read on, again, 1F1 under purpose. Therefore, development standards are established for projects involving any retail establishment that provides 6 or more shopping carts on site for use by its patrons. That is number 1 that we request. We request an amendment to 1F5 stating containment methods. That would be, right now, it simply reads, a project shall include at least one of the permitted methods to contain shopping carts on the premises. Permitted methods are limited to, I would like to amend this first one to be, a project shall include wheel locking or stopping mechanisms around the perimeter to contain shopping carts on the premises. In addition, at least one of the following permitted methods shall be included. We can continue with the LAMC from there. We just strike out B, which takes out wheel locking and stopping mechanisms. So we keep in bollards, installation of bollards, which people are doing. We keep in C, customer service. We keep in D, other methods. That stays as is. 1F6 is enforcement. Right now, this is written that the Bureau of Street Services, which is not known for enforcing any laws, is the one to enforce these laws. They are not known for giving out fines and all of that. So, right now, if we can, for 1F6, should include reasonable enforcement by government entities in conjunction with Bureau of Street Services. Somebody needs to enforce this as far as installing fines to these places. 1F6 should include reasonable enforcement by government entities in conjunction with Bureau of Street Services. I'd also like to include a number 7, 1F7, which is fines. Again, right now there is nothing for fines, but there is a law on the books by LA Sanitation that they must return their carts. And I have heard and talked to LA Sanitation where businesses do not take back these carts, so thereby they have to destroy them. So, in deference to the law is what they have to do, unfortunately. So, we also request an addition of 7 fines, which includes monetary amounts both for the number of carts found and the duration of time said businesses don't accept their carts back. LA Sanitation by law must return these carts, but businesses often don't accept them back. Fines should be levied on a per cart destroyed basis to offset LA Sanitation time and effort. From that would be what motion 8A. So, it's a little bit of everything right there.
Why don't we open this up first to public comment on this? Richard, do you have some?
Historical context as well. Most of you weren't here for it, but back in 2012, Rita Villa, our Government Affairs Committee, brought a motion talking about a lot of these same things, and the board took a look at it and said, we're not in the business of costing the local businesses more money. That being said, I have a proposed friendly amendment. Should Mr. Piscatelli accept it? We're an advisory board, so I think the beginning of the motion should read something along the lines of the Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council recommends that the city consider the following changes to LA Municipal Code 182121. That's more in keeping with your mission. Comments on the general thing. A lot of the stores are grandfathered in. The Ralphs, Vaughn's, etc. You can't retroactively enforce laws. Enforcement, how? The big deal in this city, as most of you know by now, is we pass all sorts of laws and there's nobody allocated to enforce them. There's no budget for it, there's no means of doing it, so we create yet another requirement that we don't follow up on, which is a complete waste of time. Wheel locks, etc., I think, if they get broken, the vagrants want a cart, they snap the little plastic thing, they go. One of the stores I go to all the time, the vagrants cut the wires leading to the boundary perimeter and completely disabled it. Cost them a whole bunch of money to get it. And these stores that don't want the carts back, and I can totally understand that, they need to get permission, give sanitation permission, and sanitation knows who these people are, so go to the appropriate corporate authority and get permission that when their carts come in, all they have to do is send to the recycling bin and not worry about finding people back and forth and chasing people down and driving up the cost of goods at the stores. It just means all our prices that we pay for things go up.
Thank you.
So I really don't think, I mean, I know where this is coming from, but I really don't think it's a good idea.
Thank you. Do we have other public comment on this? Yeah, Barry?
Yeah, I'm curious where this would be sent to, because it really needs to read, the Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council requests that Councilmember Krikorian make a motion to, because the only way this ordinance will be changed is if Councilman Krikorian or any of the others, but generally the one for our area does it, and he's got to make a motion to make the change. You can CC it to the other 14 council members and CC it to his policy deputy who reviews things that the councilman's going to due for change. So I think both motions need to say that up at the top, and they need to go to the council member.
Okay. Do we have a public comment on this? Eric, do you want to start off with board comments?
Sure. I think you did a nice job of going into the details. I am conflicted because whereas I understand, I don't see them all over the place, but when I do see them, I often see them connected to a person. And so in that case, I do not want to criminalize somebody pushing their stuff around, trying to, it's so painful to watch most of the time anyway. So, and I agree with some of the comments that if you could get Krikorian to nibble on a piece of it that makes sense for them, maybe that's the way to go. Maybe committee it a little more. I mean, I appreciate that you're thinking about these things, and I think, it's a little hard to support in its current form, but I think that it's good work, so.
Great, thank you. Can I respond as well quickly?
Sure.
Because I also see people pushing them around. Of course, I don't want to criminalize those people or anything like that. But I also have a lot of photos, and I can give you my Dropbox link as well. I don't have it on me right now. Let me upload a few more, where these just abandoned carts, and there's trash thrown in them as trash receptacles, and let's just say they all kind of find a way to come together. So I would probably say it's 50-50 on seeing people with them, but also just trash. I followed one place, just so you know, a big pile of them, because I followed rats across Vineland Boulevard, and I found a big pile.
So following the rats is the coyotes also.
Yeah.
They love the rats. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, this is a really well-drafted motion. I want to thank you for the whole committee. The thing I'm concerned about is that, again, I think a lot of what's happening is a symptom of a big problem that we have with our homelessness. And being a bricks and mortar operation these days is tough enough. And not having an ability to actually enforce the law, but actually laying more responsibility on these stores that'll probably leave anyways, because I was at Ralph's the other day, and someone was running out with a charger, and the people said, he's leaving. No one could, there's no police. And my point is that they're gonna leave with them anyways, and if we just penalize the stores, they're just gonna pick up and leave eventually anyways. I don't know why they haven't so far, so. But great idea, great heart.
Thank you much. If I can talk about that as well. I'm talking about the big, because this, as it is written, it's those who need 6 or more. So what you'll see is these bigger stores. I'm not talking about mom and pops, because mom and pops don't necessarily do that.
Right. I didn't say mom and pop, I didn't mean that. Bricks and mortar.
Bricks and mortar.
Or just any retailer's house. Right.
But larger, the larger ones are the ones that are using all these shopping carts. So these are the ones that are bringing in more money. I'm just going to throw out names of Ralph's, of Vaughn's,
Target,
of Target, of Trader Joe's 99-cent store. Some of those that I already named already have them. So that's why you will not see those 99-cent stores around. You will not see the Walgreens around, because the technology is already there and their shopping carts are not stolen. If you take a look at something like a Trader Joe's, for example, they have smaller carts. These are not ones that people tend to push off, not because they have the electronic fences around there, but because you can't carry much of them. So there's multiple different ways. So what I mean is the bigger stores that have the money, that have a lot of money flowing into them, that can't afford the simple technology that's there, and since it's non-competitive, there's a couple of different ways they can go about it. I don't think it puts a financial burden.
Trucks that used to pick them up. I don't see them anymore. Is there a reason why?
I don't know about that. People have not reached out to me to go for their desanitation, as far as when they get picked up, they're supposed to sanitize them, because now we're getting into a health crisis thing, which I don't want to go down, but something like this could help alleviate somebody putting produce in one of these carts where it may or may not have been desanitized from being picked up on the side of the road. So that's where I'm at with that.
I think it's a great idea. I think Barry's idea of maybe sending it on to Councilman's office is a good idea. And see if they'll help us out with that.
Agreed, I'm sorry, I should have said that. Agreed.
Marcia?
I think it should go one more time back to committee to fine tune it, because we've got some great input from the community here, which we can incorporate, and then I think we should draft just a really powerful, concise statement to Quorum. I think that's the way to go. So I say let's take it one more time, because it's a big statement. Let's take it one more time back to committee And we just really fine tune it with very concise language, and then we present it and go for it.
Heidi?
I kind of concur with her.
I have to say, me too. It was hard to kind of see the different changes, but it looks like, a lot of good work.
I also agree with everyone else.
Yeah, syntax aside, I really like that this is coming from an approach of not criminalizing a person who may feel like they need to take a shopping cart, but rather doing everything in the company's power to try to prevent it first before moving on. I think it's a very practical way of handling this. But whichever way, back to committee or here, good job for your person.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think it was a good presentation and some very good points. And in the year and a half I've been on the board, is one of the better times that there was a good balance of neighborhood input done civilly and board input, and I'd like to see more of that.
Thanks, Mike. Just for clarity's sake, I was just curious, in striking 1 at 5B, is that simply because you moved that verbiage up to 1 at 5? Is that?
1 at 5B is simply because, yes, that's exactly right.
Simply you just left it up. Okay. That was my only question. Thanks for making this. This is great.
Thank you.
Hi, really good effort. I just want to make a suggestion in that it's really good to start a dialogue. So you could get in touch with or go to the Ralphs on the corner of
Done.
Coldwater.
3 years, done.
Yeah, and you haven't gotten anywhere with them?
To bring that up specifically, I guess the family of Albersons owns that venture in Vineland in particular, and I have spoken with the property manager there, BDP, I believe it is. And for some reason, they're claiming that they are not able to put these things in for reasons out of safety because there are cable ties holding the entire thing together, because underneath there is a parking garage. Meanwhile, if you look around like the 99-cent store, like the Walgreens across the way, or like the Ralphs on Laurel Canyon, you don't need to dig anything up.
It's cement.
So you have made the effort to start a dialogue with them, you have approached them?
For 3 years,
past
yes.
3 years. Okay.
Denise?
I like it.
Mr. Newberg?
I would recommend that we adopt the preambles suggested by Barry. I think they make sense to getting this where it has to go. And yes, there used to be a lot of people driving mini pickup trucks. They're made into flatbeds, picking up carts and getting $1 each to get it back. For some reason, that's not happening anymore.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, LA Sanitation said they're supposed to be doing that, so I don't know exactly on that, but they're
I'm
also
just not
supposed to
seeing
sanitize.
that, that's all.
Yeah, I mean,
And the reason is you can see the carts on the flatbeds,
Yeah.
on the mini pickup trucks.
I've seen it
I
at
see them all
like
the time.
5 in the
Okay.
morning.
All right, Mike, what would you think about you're on the public safety committee, right, Mark?
We all are.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Okay. Are you interested in taking this back to committee to?
Definitely, to make it work and to make it stronger, of
Do
course.
you want to?
Yes,
You want
I
to
think
just
it's a great
table this
idea.
for tonight and send this back to me? I mean, I think, we had a good sit down about it and.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's
I
table
think-
it, and we can come back to
Great.
committee and get it done the right way.
Okay. Then why don't we do that? I think it's a great start. Yeah, I think this is good.
Can I ask a
Okay.
general question
Yeah.
pertaining to this topic here? How much communication is there between neighborhood councils within District 2? And the reason I ask is because I know would be even stronger if there was some synergy and cohesion between and it seems like it's such an easy thing to do, and you guys are probably saying the exact same thing these other neighborhood councils are saying. I just know from working with District 2 more than being involved with the neighborhood council, they're very slow moving and stubborn to push forward anything. But I think a lot of it comes from this lack of cross communication between these subcommittees and councils. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have, it's mostly out of curiosity, just being a neophyte too.
Which is why I want to present it to the board, and hopefully the other neighborhood councils can pick stuff up.
Yeah.
But I just want to,
Yeah.
I think what we'll do is let us go back to committee, really fine tune and sharpen that language, bring it back. present it to Quorum, and then we'll disperse it to our other neighboring councils as prototype. Okay? And then if they have to agree on it. They have to do the same thing with.
Oh, yeah, no, I just think it's so, I mean, just knowing Kokori and how little he pushes to the city directly, which is just his nature.
We'll keep on submitting it.
Yeah.
But you're right, stronger with all of the
Yeah, I mean, he's known for, he's been a councilman for a long time, he's known for.
Please come to our next meeting.
Yeah.
Please come.
Yeah.
Help us draft it.
All right, let's move on. Are
All
you
good?
doing 8A?
Yeah, I'm all good. So we're gonna table this?
We're gonna table
And
8A.
we send you both motions back.
We'll have to send both motions back because that's, yeah, in conjunction with, I'd say, right?
Well done.
Good?
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Barry, let's get transportation on the move.
It was brought to my attention about 6 weeks ago that the city or other entities were looking at what's called congestion pricing. And they were talking about anything west of the 405 and north of the 10, if you entered that wide area, including Santa Monica, you would be charged $4. And theoretically, it would require a sensor above, just like now when you go on a freeway with a transponder, every car that would enter West LA and Santa Monica would have to have a transponder. There'd be something sensing that transponder above every single street along the 405 and the 10 to the ocean and the mountains, basically Sunset Boulevard, and you'd be charged $4 when you entered that. Again, I come from the camp that when they started freeways in the 1940s, they were called freeways for a reason. And our government here has always stood for free roadways. We don't have turnpikes like the East Coast does. This was one more thing I just thought was wrong, and that as a preemptive strike, I just wanted to do a motion to Councilman Krikorian. Nothing's gone anywhere yet, but I think Studio City needs to speak to him and say, we don't want him voting for congestion pricing anywhere in the city of LA. And he could vote, he also has a vote on Metro, so they could do it even beyond, within the Metro area, and he could vote for it. So, like I said, a preemptive strike. I think, and we crafted this motion to also say, consider alternative solutions that are not fee-based. I feel too many times our current government thinks they can fix everything by adding a fee to it, and then the fee money doesn't end up going to fixing the problem anyway. So that's just basically what this motion is about, and I can read it. The Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council requests that Councilmember Paul Krikorian oppose any type of congestion pricing and consider alternative solutions that are not fee-based. This would go to the councilman, his chief of staff, his DOT, his Department of Transportation deputy, and Jessica. And that's about it.
Do we public comment on this?
Yeah, I'm with Barry. They're freeways. We already paid for them. The streets are already paid for, their gas taxes and city taxes and everything else. This idea of charging us yet again for using what we've already paid for is, to put it politely, an obscenity. I strongly urge you to approve this.
Okay. Any other public comment on this?
And I just had one other quick thing to add. At its board meeting last night, the SCRA unanimously voted to support this motion, so just wanted to put that forth, and they are also going to do a separate motion of their own, but they're supporting this one tonight.
So they're against the fee that get.
Against the fee,
okay.
yes, yeah.
I'm supportive of this, and Krikorian is not, he's supportive of something, he spoke on this at the Metro board meeting. He said that going after Waze and some of the other technology companies like Uber and possibly, but you made it clear, not fee-based, because that would be a fee-based solution. So I don't want, because I don't like that idea of jacking up the prices. So because it's cost prohibitive for people to opt in who aren't loaded. And so that's why I think this is a great motion, so I support it. And in terms of alternatives, the alternatives that to me make sense are large employers like the county and other huge employers dialing down the number of employees that have to travel every single day by saying you can work from home. That's a tricky area, but productivity is actually quite high for people who work at home. So if we could just like get half the people to stop traveling, that might be a better solution than charging the ones who have to. Thanks.
Alex?
No.
Thanks, Barry.
I think you're on the mark, but I would love to see, like what Eric said, some other solutions that are not fee-based. Taking on, just doing a riff on what Eric said, to give incentives, some type of tax incentive, benefits for companies that do have telecommuting options for their employees. You can get them off the streets. I'm in that position, okay? My employees in Long Beach, we never even see these people. So this is a great idea. Another non-fee-based solution, even though it's extremely incomplete, would be during congestion hours to have reduced fees on public transportation. More people took the bus, it would be really helpful. Take the stigma away.
I only wanted, I feel out of it. Is this something that is coming up?
It's been talked about in the West LA, Santa Monica already.
And the Metro Board is studying it.
Yeah. So I mean, even if you vote for this tonight, this issue, I believe, will be back again. And we'll have to say, do this alternative that doesn't involve a fee.
So everyone, this cracks me up. So everyone's opposed to this because the idea is that we've already paid for these roads, right? So they belong to the public, so we shouldn't have to pay for them again, right?
I suppose that was not reason.
The idea is to ease congestion during peak traffic hours.
Yeah.
And to penalize people
Who can't afford.
For going into these, driving during these highly congested hours. But those are little people commute.
Because there's.
And it's, they do this in London, they do.
No, I know, I get it, it's just, we're also the same group that wants to privatize streets for parking.
No, we're not.
Right?
No,
Like,
we're
we're in favor of preferential parking districts, right?
We're not all the same,
Very
first of all.
different.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not, it's just funny, go on,
Yeah.
Brian.
Yeah, I mean, congestion pricing is a regressive tax, and I think that that's ridiculous. That's why I am against it. It would disproportionately affect people who should not be affected by it, and I appreciate you taking the initiative in trying to stop this now.
Is this, how much of the companies that would manufacture this technology is the pressure coming to implement, or the discussion coming to implement these systems?
I have not heard that those companies are lobbying for this.
No, that's not true. There are companies.
But yeah.
Heavily. There's a component.
Yeah, okay.
It's also famously in New York now, and there was an article on the front page of the New York Times today that the people from New Jersey feel like the congestion pricing is a big keep out sign, because when everybody wants to go to New York, they jack the price up to something astonishing, like you wouldn't believe it, like over $20. And you're like, what? So that's how they feel.
But it's real easy for us to say we're not New York or London
Right.
as far as transport.
We're going, Jesse.
With respect to Brian's comment about this being a regressive tax, I would point out that the proposal concerning the west side does include a stipulation that low-income drivers would pay half price. So there is some.
Yeah, but they have to go out of their way to prove that, right? You're putting, they're barriers. That's like voter ID laws. It's like they're still charging them, they still have to go, take time off of work to prove it. Sorry, I get it up anyway.
Hey, let's keep it going.
It's interesting. I mean, I think there are some interesting ideas coming from that side of them about what might be a proactive thing to sort of include in terms of proposing something that's appealing as we simultaneously express our opposition to this sort of initiative.
Lisa? Richard?
Yeah, I'm very much opposed to the idea of having the congestion pricing, and therefore I'm in support of Barry's motion.
Cool. We're gonna vote on this. We can do, hands. Yeah, all in favor? Opposed? Mr. Sussman's opposed. Are you gonna go ahead and sit this one out, Will?
I'm abstaining,
Okay.
because I don't know enough about the issue.
Motion passes.
Good job.
Real quick, we have someone who just missed the public comment, and we'd like to come up real quick and talk. This is,
Thanks very much. Thank
Yeah.
you, Mr. President. My name is Daniel Tam. There.
Hey, how are you?
I am from LA Sanitation and Environment. We are charged with protecting the public health and environment of Los Angeles. We, of course, collect your trash. We deal with the wastewater from kitchens and bathrooms, but we do a heck of a lot more as well. We're the largest environmental agency in the West, as a matter of fact, and we are confronting climate change through about 20 programs and initiatives that deal with wastewater, obviously, with clean water, with LA watershed protection. I'm here to invite you to Earth Day, which I think everybody has a copy of, okay? On this day, the 27th of April, a Saturday, at Woodley Park, right near Japanese Gardens. Who's been to Japanese Gardens? Right? Great place, right? Right next door to it is the DC Tillman Water Reclamation Plant. In fact, without that reclamation plant, there is no Japanese Gardens, because all the watering comes from the recycled water from DC Tillman. Mayor Garcetti, as you know, wants to scale this up for the entire city to be using, that includes drinking, recycled water by 2035. And we are the agency that is charged with that. So there's a lot that we do that I'm here because I want to introduce you to all the things that we do beyond collecting trash and dealing with wastewater. Given the intensity and the urgency of climate change, LA Sanitation and Environment is becoming more important by the day. And our partnership together, if you know what we're doing, it would be really helpful in terms of being able to advance together the kinds of things that we need to be doing to be dealing with that. So that's a long-winded way of saying that this is entirely free. If you have children, bring them, it'll be fabulous. Sustainability and conservation workshops will be there. Every single thing that we do will be there, will be on hand. Free food while the supplies last, free parking, everything's free. So do come and enjoy. Yes, Eric?
How about those small, adorable pen holders that are like little recycling cans? Will those be there?
You know, I've gone to almost every single one of the meetings,
They're
and
so
I
good.
haven't heard about those.
They're the
Eric.
public, they're trending in the public, just so you know.
Are they really?
The green, the
Tell me
blue,
about
they're little like you're recycling, but they're this big.
I have one.
Yeah, I have one
Vacation
too. I don't know where I got it.
What do they do?
They just sit on your desk and hold your pencils. But they're extremely, it's swag.
Yeah, we,
It's
Oh, okay.
basically,
Did they last longer than the ones we had?
they're just great. I like miniature stuff. What can I say?
Well, LA Sanitation and Environment, we do have actually small bins.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, the
That's what
bins.
you're talking
Yeah, I
about?
think so.
Well, we've got that.
Okay, great.
yeah, they'll be.
I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about some new thing.
No,
that
no,
I've
no, I
never heard
know.
about.
It was a little bit of it's a serious
Yes, ma'am.
question, very serious question.
What is the difference between recycled water and gray water?
Recycled water you can drink, gray water you cannot drink. You know, when I say recycled water, let me back up a little bit, okay?
That's why that's
Because, you can't drink all recycled water now, but we're getting to that point where we're going to be able to. Okay, and that's another reason why I'm here, because of things like this are starting to happen, and so we're starting to evolve with all this stuff, and nobody has the foggiest idea what we're doing. And I'm here to, to tell the story. So in time, recycled water will be able to drink, and we will know that, and we'll get the word out far and wide about that. But we'll be all the water that goes down to the Hyperion, down near El Segundo, and then gets cleaned like 3 different ways, and then gets pushed out to 5 miles out as effulgent out into the ocean, which is perfectly safe, by the way. No sea life, and no one is affected by it. That stuff is not going to be sent out anymore. It's going to be dealt with there in the way that it's dealt with at Hyperion, and then it's going to come back up to the valley through a series of pipes up to a place that we've got going in near Hanson Dam. Then there's this process called ozonation. You can Google that. Ozonation. That will be, it's a combination of our, actively cleaning it, and then just letting the earth clean it the way it normally does to replenish our aquifer. Okay, and then the aquifer is where we'll then be drawing the recycled water, drawing it. It's like an interpretive dance, drawing the water. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. I appreciate the time. Do come.
Okay.
Enjoy
Thank
your
you.
day.
Thank you. President, this is a moment. We're not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Right here.
All right. So we have an election, as I have the habit of saying, May 16th. So we are now officially within the final month from now to the election, and so we're just have these little buckets to fund the remaining things to make sure that we get the word out, so everyone can show up, everyone knows what to do, as well as our candidate forum to answer Rudy's question over here.
Thank you, Brian.
The time and place are still being worked out. We're in the final stages of that. I would say look for notice of when that's coming within the next 2 days. I'll say that. But yeah, other than that, we have $1,000 bucket for the candidate forum, $1,000 bucket for print and mail outreach, $1,000 for social media, and $1,000 for discretionary, which includes basically a sister video to the one that was made for the candidate outreach. So I kind of summarized, but I should probably read it through.
Yeah.
The Studio City Neighborhood Council approves the election funding plan. Motion 10A funding plan. The Ad Hoc Committee on Elections puts forward the following funding plan for the Studio City Neighborhood Council elections. Candidate forum and associated costs, time and date, TBD, up to $1,000. Print and mail outreach as necessary and up to $1,000. Social media outreach as necessary and up to $1,000. And discretionary budget, including any assets or costs associated in the production of the SCNC election outreach video as necessary and up to $1,000. So yeah, it's just basically we have the remaining budget. This is kind of how it's associated. $1,000 came from last month's meeting, as well. That was for print and other promotional materials. This covers us to get from now to the election and any other remaining costs. And still have some creativity and flexibility in terms of how to spend it in case something comes up where we need to be creative and flexible. And then most likely the remaining funds will probably go back into the bucket for the council. So.
Now, just to confirm, we've already approved this money in the overall 9,000. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is just a breakdown specifically of how you want to spend
it. It's a breakdown showing how we're going to spend it. Also to offer some transparency. Offer some suggestions, but yeah, I think this has been approved twice already.
Okay. I just want to make sure everyone's
driving it home.
Clear on that.
Just driving it home. We got a month left.
Some caution from Brian on this.
Totally.
And that's, yeah. Do we have public comment on this?
A quick question.
Yeah.
No, go for it. Love to hear new people.
So when it goes, as far as outreach,
Mhm.
there's documentation, I know, for residents who are voting on residents, and
Right.
there's, even the city clerk was very unclear on specifics.
Mhm.
When I did call them, they really had no idea what constituted specifics of documentation. Do you guys clarify that to the community through?
So the
this,
plan, the preliminary plan I have right now is by setting it all up online and then having whatever kind of flyer, outreach, promotional materials link back to that site. So we don't have like one gigantic postcard that has the instructions for 6 or 7 different categories of voters and candidates, and just kind of organize it a little bit. But yeah, the plan is to make sure that people know and kind of demystify the complexities of that as easily as possible.
And then the form, that will be generally announced to the public, or in that
Yeah,
takes place here?
so like I said, within 2 days, we should be able to nail down that. I have a tentative date in place right now. I just want to make sure that we're feeling out a couple other quotes to keep.
What place do you have right now, the library?
No, right now we have Beaman Park is an option,
Right.
and then the social room at the North Hollywood First Christian Church.
You'll reach out to the candidates specifically through email?
Yes. Yeah, it'll go out to them to get ready, and so they can promote it on themselves to get their support out, and then it will also go out to the community at large.
Mr. Evans?
Recuse myself.
Okay, Eric?
Yeah, I just comment on the Beaman thing, because Beaman was an alternate to the library who didn't have a dish. They have one date, which we have, which is May 10th, correct, at the library. So, but the idea of having a full candidate forum, we thought maybe Beaman Park, the rec center, would be an appropriate place for that. And they are virtually assured that they can provide April 25th, which is soon, and May 2nd, which is, those are Thursday nights.
Right.
And it would be at 7 PM in their little rec center. It's a room about this size. The question, what do people expect at a forum is a good question, because, I'm not sure we're so sure. We've been to one from 3 or 4 years ago. So if people have ideas, I think that's great. All the candidates should get a chance to introduce themselves, I assume, and we try to divide the time evenly. We're winging it here because, we want to invite the candidates and all the people to come, and that's what I think. So that's.
Alex?
Quick question, and I probably missed this. On the vote for elections, is it going to be by documentation to prove, or is it going to be by?
Affirmation.
It is by documentation?
Yeah.
All the voters will show
We'll
that
provide
they're
documentation on their stakeholder status within the categories. Yeah.
Okay.
Affirmation.
It's not affirmation?
You never changed it, it's documentation.
Which is why this is being developed to kind of demystify that process.
Right, we're running really.
Your clerk sounded like,
Thanks.
renters, it was,
For affirmation.
It's confusing enough, though.
It's ambiguous, but the clear sounded like for renters, they just need to bring ID. But then he.
And we'll be coordinating with the LA Clerk's office just to make sure that we're clear on that. They're running the process at the election, so whatever their call is what they're going to accept.
But we have to make sure they know what to bring.
Yeah.
Right. My point is, I'm talking to the clerk's office to find that out, because they're going to know it because they have to administrate it.
Right.
That's my point.
I just have one question, since we already approved a higher budget on this. You don't want to give yourself more leeway, just in case?
This is the rest of the budget.
That's it?
$4,000?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So $4,000's already been spent? Wasn't it $8,000 originally?
It was 9.
9?
But we've done now 4 different open forums at the library. We've done other outreach for the candidates. We've done other advertising. Money's been spent here, and this is the rest.
I didn't realize the forums were part of.
Yes, and that was part of which is the reason why we keep coming back with specific breakdowns of this, because I wanted to make sure that people knew that the open forum series was part of the election budget.
Well, sorry, may I make a comment?
Mhm.
But some of those flyers did not even say that there was anything to do with the election. And everybody you have to come back. It's an ad hoc committee, correct? So everything
Yes.
you do has to be approved by the board, and even when you have a specific budget.
Yes.
But most of those forums didn't even mention the election, so how could election money be spent?
All of during the forums, elections were talked about and brought up and discussed.
Okay, but the forum flyer that went out does not say that, so nobody would have known it was something to do
No, but the
related to
e-blasts,
the elections.
Lisa, if you read the e-blasts, we refer to the elections.
Okay, it's not on there.
It's not on the
It's
flyer.
only on one.
One
I'll
flyer,
have-
she's right, but again, it's not a problem because these are
Of
events
course
that are,
it is,
I
Eric.
mean,
Nobody knew that
Okay,
that was
well-
going to be discussed if it's not on.
well, when the one that was for elections that you happened
Okay,
to know.
we're not gonna just.
Well, I think
go
we
back.
should, why not?
Absolutely.
We have 4 weeks, we really need to get out there to
Yeah.
the stakeholders.
Agreed.
They don't know anything about what's going on with this election yet.
Okay, Marcia?
Thank you, Al.
Marcia, do you have anything to add?
I'm not pointing it to you, Brian, I'm just saying in general, we are 4 weeks until the election. People don't know how they're gonna be able to vote, they don't know the times, they don't know any details, and, this is getting really close to, critical.
But that is not Brian's fault, that is.
No,
the-
it's no one's
just to-
fault.
Just to clarify,
I'm just
that's,
making a
but
point.
it is.
The board
someone's
had filled
fault.
out a
It is
sheet.
someone's fault. It's the fault of the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, who systematically blocked this very body, who made lots of effort to change the way the craziness is unfolding.
Sorry. That
No,
is
no, no, no,
totally
no,
out of
no, no,
order.
no, no. Hey,
That's
okay.
absolutely out of order.
Okay, we're just gonna move on. Marcia, do you have anything to add? Okay, Heidi?
Nope.
Jean? Yes.
Is there a vote by mail process?
No.
Oh.
I don't believe so.
No.
No.
There could have been.
There could have been.
Welsh?
So this is an allocation or an estimation of $4,000. How does the motion, does it include the money that was approved last month for $1,000?
No.
Or is it, so we're looking at an allocation now of $5,000 in the 2 motions from
Yes.
this month and last month? And so, yeah, so there's been about $4,000 out of that $9,000 that's been spent? All right.
I believe it's slightly less, but yeah.
We've had, how much less approximately?
The open forum series was about 2,000. The advertising that went up was 250, and I believe did random printouts and reimbursements from that.
All right, because we've talked briefly about rolling over money. We're getting pretty close. We had about $800 or $900 of unexpected computer repair expenses. So we
got that money back, right? So that's where I thought.
When was that approved?
Hold on, I'm
It's an
asking
offer-
Gary,
it's
hold on, guys. I'm just asking Gary a quick question.
Yeah, sure.
Didn't we find that the computer couldn't be fixed or whatever?
Right, we got
the money
all
back?
350 back, and it was used towards buying the new tower.
Okay, so I was wrong.
So which is an office expense, which is a legitimate office expense, right? But I'm just saying we're very close. So I would just encourage you to bring yourself in under these $1,000 chunks when and where you can.
Yeah.
No. Jessica?
So I am concerned about the Friday night forum being into this budget, wrapped into this budget.
Yeah.
So $9,000, and did we vote on this? Was I missing, was I absent? from
This vote was
meeting?
took place in January.
And did you make it really clear
Yes.
that the Friday night forum was going to be wrapped into the
Yes.
$9,000?
It was the first item on the
For
breakdown.
election?
Yeah,
It
they
was
said
the first
election
item on the
time forums.
Why?
Lisa, election time
Hold on, hey,
forums.
No,
Lisa,
let me ask
I can
a
field
question.
this.
So why weren't the posters clear in stating the ones that you're sending out? Because I've looked at every single one you've sent out, and there's no mention
Well, hold on, because there
of
is.
any one candidate being invited to, or speaking, or anything like that at the forums. They had an agenda, you guys had an agenda, you have an agenda at those forums, but none of us candidates were included or invited in a way where we're highlighting the election.
Well, Lisa, you were at the Government Affairs Committee meeting way back when the whole idea of having open forums as a way to let the community know that we want to hear from them, that we're involved, and Brian does stand up at the forums and say, oh, just so you know, we're having an election coming up at some point. So I just don't understand.
Just a mention
If I
does
can answer
not,
this.
Well, but if you put up,
does not make
a,
$9,000.
no, I understand, but
Hey, one at a time.
if we did what Dunn was proposing, which is showing a picture of a paintbrush that says May 16th, that does not connect to people. So our various strategies have included the video about walkover, which is to get people, about 1,000 people viewed that, to get the idea of how our neighborhood council worked. The forums were intended to be opportunities to hear from our very community. Everybody is invited, including Lisa. And Lisa has been to as many as she was able to make it to. She's been to as many.
Because I never knew
No,
anything about it.
you're not on
Nice.
the email list anymore?
I wasn't on it.
Okay,
all,
we're
so-
digressing.
Yeah, I know, I know, I know.
That's not credible,
You
by
were-
the
you
way,
didn't
but
even
let's
make
move
sure
forward.
that
Okay.
You didn't even
No, no, no,
make sure
no, no, no,
that
hold on.
the
Right now,
people
Lisa
who were in the
Krashen has the
election
floor,
were
not Lisa
notified.
Sarkent or Eric Previn. I'm not sure why this is difficult. Lisa, are you finished?
Well, it's disconcerting to me that this went down. And it should have been very, very clear. We should have been invited in a way where we had a chance to be at the forum, present at the forum, stand up and introduce ourselves to the community. Not to just like be, you know, hey, we're having an election on May 16.
Well,
Come
I mean,
and
if I
talk to us, or-
if I can answer this question, because a lot of people are talking over me, and I actually have an answer to this. So, the first thing I'll say, in January, I made a pitch for the Open Forum series to be part of the election budget. I made that pitch from the point of view that the strategy would be not so much about the election, but engaging the community in civic engagement so that the cherry on top at the end in May would be an election.
Oh,
It was
very
all,
good, Brian.
which-
But why did you
Hold on.
decide
Lisa,
to wrap it
Lisa.
into the $9,000
Hold on.
election budget?
Lisa, let's let Brian finish.
because it was about civic engagement, and no one had a problem with that in January. That was my intention. I've never strayed once from that. I understand the concern that people may not know about the election yet. That is a concern of which I share. It is a concern of which I will be working to rectify. We have a month until the election. I made the point for the Open Forum series very clear. And also, may I add, the posters that were designed for the Open Forum series, if you look at them actually, they don't all not mention the election. Some of them actually do. Some of them actually have it as a topic of discussion. So it has gone out. Maybe not all of them, and maybe we can do a better job. But this is not out of left field, and it is not out of nowhere. This has been an intention from the very beginning. I've been clear. This is the third time we've approved this budget because I've been wanting to be absolutely transparent here. If there is a sense that we are not doing everything that we can, then we can rectify that. But this is not an outrageous injustice that we have done to the election committee. This is something that we have been planning, that we have been open about, that we've been transparent about, and I am more concerned as election chair of getting the community engaged in civics in general until we can ensure that they are voting in elections not just this time, but in 2 years from now and in 2 years from now. I want the community as a whole to know that we are here as a governing board. Not just so we can get them out of the house for a single day, for an hour, to vote in one election, and that's it. My thoughts on civics are much bigger than that. And I would think that everyone on this board's view of civics would be bigger than that. And that is what I've been doing since the beginning, since I was appointed as election chair.
And doing a fine job, I may add, but I do want to say that it would have been more transparent, not to say that you haven't been transparent, to have invited the candidates
And that
taken it a
that
bit
is a fair
further.
criticism. That is a fair criticism. And if that is a criticism, it can be noted, and it can be adjusted, and we can move forward. But there's a lot of talking over me that we're not, that's my problem. Right?
Yeah. Denise?
I have no problem with criticism. I do have a problem with people talking over.
Denise?
Okay, I got a question. With this money that we're going to go forward with.
Yes.
And the money we have spent, did we spend all the $9,000?
No, and we don't actually have a plan to spend all 9,000. We're just
Okay.
allocating the buckets so that, we don't potentially go, if we assigned like $100 for each, we'd potentially go over. We're over allocating money to spend less than, just so we make sure that we're not going to get
Because
ourselves in
I'm
trouble.
fascinated, we have to save $10,000.
'Cause
I can't save 10,000 out of
Yeah,
nine.
but I would, say, we have to, keep everything under this month so we can save $10,000. I want to make sure that we get the word out.
Yes.
Have we thought about having 2 forums?
Mhm. And certainly we have the date which I have tentatively set for May 1st, which again, I will be announcing within 2 days once we lock that down, or at Beaman Park, which again, the date is, we also, as Eric already pointed out, we still have May 10th as a day. So we do have 2 more forums, one dedicated as a candidate forum and one dedicated as an open forum to allow the stakeholders of the community to voice any issue that they'd like. So we do have 2.
Okay, Richard?
Yeah, I of course like the not to exceed, elements of, and I'm much again concerned, the one we had 2016, to me appeared to be overproduced. I'm assuming this will not be overproduced and have photo booths, that kind of food, or big 24 by 30 pictures of every candidate. I think that's a little too much, and it doesn't make us look good. Thank you.
Okay, all right. We're going to go ahead and vote on this. We need to do a roll call on this, yes, okay. Yep.
This is for an internal budget, but yeah, I would do.
For just caution, let's just do a roll call.
It's a
Yep.
finance, so, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so to approve the funding plan, roll call vote. Brian?
Yes.
Richard?
Abstain.
Patrice? Yes. Clara? Yes. Alice?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Heidi?
Yes.
Janine?
Yes.
Marcia? Yes. Richard?
Yeah.
Jesse?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Denise?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Denise, take it away.
Okay. We have two motions.
Microphone.
I get two now. Okay, here we go. We had a couple of people come to visit us. And the first motion is the Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council supports ENV 2019-242 EAF. The project permit compliance pursuant to LA Section 1701 vested a tentative tract small lot subdivision to permit the demolition of an existing single-family dwelling at 12918 West Bloomfield Street in Studio City to construct a small lot subdivision of 5 detached single-family dwellings with attached 2-car garage located in the RD 1.5-1 Rio. This area already has similar projects. It is right next to one. It is a by right building project, and the people were receptive to a wide variety of things that we said they needed to do. And essentially, since it's by right, they're going to do it anyway. So what they're asking for is not over the top.
Did anyone show up in opposition to this?
No one.
And we have no public comment on this? Do we have any board comment on this?
If it's by right and they did the modifications
Yeah.
that the committee asked for, A, it's by right, and B, they cooperated with us, not much you
Yeah.
can do but say, okay.
I appreciate seeing it on the agenda, but good stuff. Thanks,
Yeah.
I'm for it.
I'm just curious, did you tell the neighbors around there? Because I know there's a lot of single-family homes.
Right, and this is the, unfortunately, this area has gone through this previously, and there's not much anybody can do about it.
What about the next two lots?
At this point, nobody has decided to pass away and sell their house.
So it was I thought those two were sold.
They may be, but they may not be sold to a developer at this point, and that I don't know. But the only one that has been sold to a developer and is going to be developed is the one we're discussing.
Okay. Do you know if the next two are zoned that are
It's
RD
only the first
1.5?
two that are RD 1.5.
Right.
Just the first two?
Right, just that once they've built this one, they're no longer zoned for that.
Okay.
So they'll have to fight for the house.
Thank you.
Did you say this is adjacent to an already existing small lot subdivision that's already developed?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so my only comment is to recommend to the developer to have some architectural differentiation.
They are,
It's literal good, actually.
yeah.
Yeah. Heidi?
Nope.
Jean?
Do we know if any trees are being taken down?
No, there's no trees being taken down, but there are shrubs and bushes, and we were discussing they needed to put, one of those ficus hedges in to block part of the light in the sun that's going to be reflecting.
Brian?
Yep.
Sorry, I mean, does anyone else have anything?
Yeah.
Then we can go ahead and vote on this.
Okay.
We can do a show of hands. All in favor?
Passes unanimously.
The second one, the Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council supports DIR 2019-1529 DRB-SPP. The project is going to take it's 3,598 square foot remodel. They're taking a 2,163 square foot, one-story single-family home with an attached garage and make it into 5,761 square feet. They're removing a swimming pool and moving it. This is at 12300 West Iredale Street. It is in the Mulholland Parkway specific plan. The Mulholland Parkway specific plan has already smiled upon it. So they really have no neighbors. There is no one that they're going to be overlooking or seeing or bothering with. They're at the end of the street.
Yeah, did anyone show up in opposition? Yeah, we have comment on this?
Well, if it meets the specific.
Mark Rubin?
Yeah, and there's also.
I will be the second.
Yeah.
You want to do that first or second?
We have a comment from a stakeholder that couldn't attend tonight. Dear board members, I'm submitting this letter to urge the board to set aside support of the subject project on the following basis. Number one, dozens of protected trees have been observed on the subject property. All trees are in excellent condition and vigor. There are 4 classes of protected trees in the city of Los Angeles pursuant to Ordinance 177404. They include the oak trees, including Valley Oak, California Live Oak, Southern California Black Walnut, Western Sycamore, California Bay. The subject project should not be supported without qualified biologist review of a tree report by a qualified arborist that has been submitted and approved by the Urban Forestry Division, the lead agency responsible for determining tree removals and mitigation. And number 2, the subject project is not eligible for categorical exemption under CEQA because the project would have a significant impact on biological resources of the property and undeveloped land of the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy abutting the subject property. Lastly, I am submitting the attached report, which, sir, do you have that? Because I
do.
Okay. On a study by USC scientists that saw that most of the tree canopy and the greenery loss in the city of LA has occurred on single-family lots and residential areas due to increasing home sizes. As much as 55% of the green cover was lost from 2000 to 2009, with almost no single area spared the decline. The study's findings confirm that the majority of LA's trees are lost to development of oversized houses. The USC study is an urgent call for conservation and management strategies that focus on single-family residential areas which are providing valuable ecosystem services for millions of Angelenos. Please note that we are not against development, but only the most environmentally superior projects should be supported. To that end, we need developers to provide evidence that they have seriously considered design alternatives to covering over and removing valuable ecosystem services. Hence, I respectfully request that the board set aside support of this project at this time and to allow for careful review of the project by all stakeholders, including the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy.
Okay,
Good job.
Yeah. They have agreed not to take out any trees. They're putting in the house, they're removing the pool for a reason. The house will be on an open area. No trees will be removed. They have agreed to that.
Yes, hold on, would you like to speak now?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to speak against approving this. First off, I don't understand if this is a by right kind of thing, if this is passed, I don't know. I'm a neophyte at this, I don't understand, but this is passed planning department. If it's by right, I still don't see why this board needs to put its approval on something like this. This property, I see this property several times a week. This property is at the end of the street. It is right up against the Santa Monica Conservancy. It is right up against the curve where the Betty B. Deering Fire Road goes past Tree People. It's the last property there. It's
currently visible, very minor. This is a big development on it. The previous person who I conveyed the letter from was saying that there needs to be an arborist report about this. So if in fact no trees are being removed particularly, I think there should be an official thing about that. We just heard from the Earth Day person here. This is the continuing deforestation of this community, which I see every day. In terms of, I know I didn't speak about 11A, but I saw the notice on Fruitland, one of the last little houses on Fruitland. Fruitland is the same as are you familiar with this one? It's just going up. Last little house there, 2 big trees. I never even noticed that house because it had 2 big trees in front of it. It was all landscaped and stuff in there. That's going to be a 4-story building there between the 2 other ones. This just goes on and on and on. And so I don't understand why this board needs to weigh in favor of this, even if it is a kind of by right, it doesn't matter what we do, they're going to build it anyway kind of thing.
They have agreed, in order to get through Mulholland, they had to agree not to rip out any trees. And they have agreed to do it. They have laid out the house so it's on a flat area. There's no trees where they're putting it. They're ripping out a pool, so they've got all the room around it.
I don't know much. I know the existence of Mulholland Scenic Corridor. They've done some things that I haven't understood in the past. This is not, to my knowledge, directly observable from Mulholland itself. So my feeling about them is that they kind of don't care if it's not when you're looking at the landscape of LA when you're driving along Mulholland. And I understand that these people need to, this motion that came up a couple of months ago when I was here, of the aerial tramway on you guys don't remember that one?
Yeah, we remember.
No, not Aero, not the one up to the Hollywood sign. There was something right on Iredell, on the other Iredell, on Iredell Lane.
George Clooney's.
Clooney's funicular.
Okay.
The
Funicular.
funicular to his lower property.
Yeah, okay, so I understand that these people have to keep up with the Joneses for, the huge properties that are on the newer part on Iredell Lane, which is newer than the original Iredell Street. But nonetheless, this is, and I guess you can say there's plenty of trees in the Santa Monica Conservancy there. There's plenty of trees. We don't need any more. This is right up against there. This is very similar.
Actually, it's above. It's above. The parkland is down here, and it sits above.
So Denise, you're saying that the applicants have agreed that no trees are going to be torn out?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that in writing?
Yeah,
Is that in the application?
That was in the application.
In the application?
It was a condition, or?
Yeah, they can't, they're not ripping, they agreed, they don't want to rip, they're not ripping out any trees. That was a big point with everybody.
Assessed and accounted for?
Yes.
Are they on the plan?
Yeah.
Because we don't have anything in
Yeah, they put it on there.
Yeah, Barry.
Yes, Barry.
Yeah, I just think everybody in this room has a right to know whose letter was read into the public record.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yes,
Good point.
I did not.
Diana, right?
That's right. Diana Zogren,
Yeah,
Environmental Health Committee Chair,
Yes.
Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance.
that was my guess.
Yes. That's your first guess, then your second guess.
Let's vote on this.
Good segue.
All in favor?
Favor of what?
Of the motion.
Can we just do a roll call for me?
We're going to do a roll
Okay,
call.
Brian?
No.
Richard? Welch?
Abstain.
Patrice?
Abstain.
Claire? Abstain. Alex?
Abstain.
Lisa?
Abstain.
Heidi?
Abstain.
Janine?
Ditto.
Is that abstain?
Yeah.
Marcia?
No.
Richard?
Yeah.
Jesse?
No.
Eric?
No.
Andrew?
Yes.
Denise?
Yes.
The motion does not pass.
Can I just make a suggestion? Next time, can you bring us paperwork that shows us, on there that that they're the tree, I mean, just something to show us, and then I think we feel more comfortable with something like this.
Or just invite the applicant and have them.
And have the applicant at least
state.
come and explain.
Yeah, they were invited.
They still gotta build it.
All right, so we're gonna move on to 12.
Go on, where are you going?
Huh? I see Gibson back there, Gibson's making eyes, everyone's doing their thing. Huh?
Just go to,
Gibson, why don't you explain?
Why we're done?
What is this, Gibson's motion?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Per today's email, the department recommendation is please do not discuss the motion in its current fixture. With sort of guidance from the city attorney as well. The determination was the motion is incorrect in its current writing. In addition, the motion to support the project was already voted on last month, and we do feel like, based off of this assessment, the project is moving forward, and the neighborhood council had voted to support it, and the current motion cannot be. The recommendation is please don't discuss the motion in its current form.
What happened?
it doesn't matter, just go to 13.
No, in fact, it violates the
I signed up for
Constitution
it.
and the Article 1 of California Constitution.
Hold on. Can we have public comment on this?
Well, you're the president.
You can't have public comment on this?
No, there's.
You don't have to discuss it, you just have to hear the public.
Yeah.
We're tabling.
What are we talking about?
Yeah, I mean, Mr. President, if let me just.
I think we're actually.
Yeah.
Well, why?
Comments from members on subject.
I mean, if the city attorney wanted to say, don't discuss something, they would have sent us a note saying, don't discuss it. But that's not the same as sending a non-lawyer down here to say, we advise you not to. I mean, I don't think, I've looked at it myself. I'm not 100% clear on it, but I don't see any problem with discussing it. I mean, if you want to say you don't want to vote on it because you don't want to vote on it, that's a different thing. But to not talk about it just feels like to put something on an agenda and not discuss it is almost weirder than to discuss something that's not on the agenda.
And I would have said this in number 3 if I'd known this was not going to be taken up in number 11 or number 12.
Yeah, I mean, people would have had an opportunity to address the question.
I would have said this in public comment.
Gibson sent an email saying that we can't be discussing number 12. And I was like, what is number 12?
Well, I didn't get that.
I went looking for it.
The city attorney
Like,
should.
were you advised by the city attorney?
Yes.
We ordered to do so?
Lisa, can you forward me the email? I didn't get an email. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Who didn't get an email from Gibson saying that we shouldn't be talking about it?
Why
That's
don't
what they want.
You
I
did?
read it was going to be tabled.
What are they hiding it from?
Not discussed.
Did I get it?
I didn't read it very
What's
closely.
this new
It's
directive?
semantics.
I think we're totally in the clear to talk about it because we notified the
So
community.
can I do my public comment?
Of course.
It was,
Barry, I want to hear, let's
it
hear
was
Barry's public
yesterday.
comment on it.
Gibson.
But
If
you
I
can't
may.
hear from just one person. That's-
Yesterday, 3:25 PM, Gibson sent an email saying, good afternoon, board. The Department of Neighborhood Empowerment is recommending that motion 12A on Studio City Neighborhood Council's April 12th board meeting agenda to be tabled and not to be discussed by the board. Neighborhood councils should limit their discussions to items within the jurisdiction of the board, and discussing stakeholder actions are outside the scope of the Studio City Neighborhood Council. Beth Gibson.
So all I really wanted to say is, many of you know I am also one of the vice presidents of the Studio City Residents Association. And back in February, our office secretary often sends me emails from our members asking questions. And the question I was sent was about Jalapeno Pete's and basically what's going on there now. And so I enlisted the help of Lisa Sarkin, who's one of our specific plan appointees by Paul Kerkorian, and I asked her if she knew anything about it, And she looked into it with the council office and set up a meeting. I asked her to set up a meeting at the SCRA office, and the two of us met with the owner there. And we asked questions about what was going on there. And at the time, we only knew that the request was to double the size of their restaurant bar. But as it turned out, we found out it wasn't the case. But the applicant always knew that she was the PRB representative and I was a VP from the Studio City Residents Association. There was no mention of the neighborhood council whatsoever. And we had, after that meeting, we really had more questions than answers. And then we learned by contacting the planning department that it really wasn't about doubling the size of the restaurant. They weren't going to do that at all. They were renewing their conditional use permit.
We already know.
Right. And that's when, to make a long story short, Lisa realized that in saying no to a building being enlarged wasn't really it, and asked you to reconsider, and you asked her to write something for that reconsideration. And that, in a nutshell, is the history. And I can tell you, the representatives that sat here 4 weeks ago did not tell the truth on all kinds of violations on that 2011 CUP, which unfortunately none of us had until the day after this meeting.
We're not here to rehear
Right, but I'm just giving you the background.
But for the record,
And this background leads to this motion. So, knowing all this, there's no reason for this motion.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Did you give Lisa Stark an authorization to represent the neighborhood council in this?
I did not. I asked Lisa Sarkin. I knew that when we voted on it the first time, when we first voted on jalapeno pizza, I got nothing to be ashamed of. I was aware that we did not have the full information. When we voted on it, was it February or March?
February.
February. And so jalapeno pizza.
We vote to oppose them.
We voted to oppose them. And then Jalapeno Pete's reached out to me and said, we were not aware of this, and the things that you had, the conditions that you had listed were incorrect to begin with. I don't know whose fault that is, whatever. So then I told them I would try to get it back on the agenda for the next meeting so that we could vote it, that they could come in and all of that. So I contacted Lisa at that time, and as the former head of land use, I asked her advice on how you would word a motion bringing something back. Meaning all I said, the only word I was looking for was reconsider. So she recommended, she said, I would, if you want to bring back a motion you've already voted on, say that you would like to reconsider the motion. And that was the end of the dialogue Lisa and I had about that.
Not true. I have all the emails in my book right here.
I know, Lisa?
And also for the record, I too am Councilmember Krikorian's appointee for the PRB, and I was not invited to that jalapeno Pete's meeting
It had
with
nothing
you
to
and
do
Barry.
with that. Barry has misspoken.
Right.
If you want me to explain the whole thing, I can show you all the emails starting from December 19th, 2018.
We should let her.
Yes.
I move to lay motion 12A on the table. If this motion is laid on the table, it needs a second. There's no debate, there's no conversation, it's not amendable, and it needs a majority vote to pass. Is there a second?
You haven't finished public comment yet.
Oh, second.
You haven't finished public comment.
It's not debatable. If there's no discussion, put the lay on the table.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Comments from members on subject matter?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor of laying on the table?
I'm against it.
I don't know what happened.
Are they opposing or abstaining?
No,
Do we have any opposing?
I'm opposing. I don't want to lay it on the table. I wanted to talk about it, and we can't talk about it if it's on the table, so
Correct. discuss the motion to lay it on the table.
Maybe we could talk about it then.
Yeah,
vote.
I haven't finished a public comment on the motion either.
But you're missing some people here too.
There's no motion.
There's no discussion.
Yeah, he wasn't excused.
No, Richard, no one called. There's
I
no,
have a card on it. You didn't lay it on the table because the vote didn't pass.
The vote to lay it on the table passed. There was one dissent.
Yeah, but how many abstained? You didn't get a total quorum.
We did. We did. There was.
Why don't
there's
we
a good-
recount?
No?
Where did the treasurer go? Did he-
Switzerland. It's counted with the funds.
okay. Comments from members? Eric?
Yeah, you know, I'm always concerned when there are things happening that we were totally unaware of. And I do not like the idea of, you know, people believing, any of us, believing that we know what the entire board thinks, let alone somebody who's not necessarily on the board. And I don't know because I haven't seen the emails. I can't, you know, adjudicate these things in my own mind without any information. Now, it's unfortunate there was no recording of the last meeting. I've been paying attention. I understand what's going on at Jalapeno Pete's and that they're done. They're moving forward. I just think that this speaks to.
There's no hearing.
Hey, Lisa.
Well, I mean, when I say they're done, I thought that they're not before us anymore at the moment. So I don't know. I am very disappointed in how this has come down, and I, again, do not understand why we are not discussing it and processing it. But evidently you did last time, and I missed it, so that's my fault. But let's move forward.
Alex?
Yeah, I just want to echo the same thing. I mean, I'm not quite clear on the dynamics involved, but it seems to be there aren't just two sides of a story, there's like 6. And it just seems like, let's bring it out. I think the neighborhood council's name was utilized by a stakeholder, maybe outside the purview of their duties. But I don't know, because no one talks about anything, and we have Dunn, you know, telling us what they advise and don't advise, and who knows who influenced that. So this just doesn't help our reputation and doesn't instill confidence in our stakeholders and our, including, of course, businesses like Jalapeno Pete's, when we're not even able to vet what the heck happened because there's so many different sides to what happened, and just being told we got to move on. This isn't the way our system should be working. So I'm very disappointed.
New here.
I'm gonna pass.
That's the way it always works.
I reiterate what you said, exactly.
Unbelievable.
I would like to say something. If I had gotten Gibson's email, which I did not get, Gibson, can you fix that and make sure I get it? I would have said at the top of the meeting, I would advise the president to change the agenda so that people didn't sit and wait for the whole meeting to address this issue, that they would have known from the top that it was being removed because of that situation. Secondly, when we're talking about behavior of people in this way, it is not something to be discussed in public forum. This needs to be a grievance. It needs to be in a grievance committee where they have time and they're unrelated and they can dig into the facts of the matter. It's not for a public debate. That sort of personal accusations on both parties, to both sides.
Can we still vote for an ad hoc committee to investigate?
It's a grievance committee that's appointed, and that would have a right.
So you'd have to have a grievance pool to do that.
I just want to second Nancy and say it's outside of our jurisdiction to come down on an individual private citizen as a governing board. That's my opinion about it.
I think it is our job to find the truth if we can do so.
No, you can't do it here. You can't do it here.
Excuse me. I was told this was not going to be going forward. My name has been mentioned here, and I am a candidate. So I should be able to answer what was just said.
I agree.
And I have all the proof right here.
Let's see what he plans to do first.
Oh, my God.
You don't want me to do this. You shouldn't have let everyone talk.
This was just, Lisa, these were people's closing comments that they're allowed to make.
You were supposed to not discuss any of it.
I put in a public comment for comments.
Gibson, what do you think?
Table the motion and move on to the next.
It's been tabled.
Let her rip.
It's been tabled?
It's been tabled.
Lisa,
How could it be tabled?
Lisa, it's been tabled.
Just
And I
reverse it.
object.
I do.
I've got a public
I
comment card
object
in
to
for
every
closing
way this was
comments.
handled. No, it was tabled and they still talked about it. No, that's absolutely out of order.
They don't get it.
Was it tabled?
You people are really amazing. Totally impressive. Electioneering by a board member, violation. First Amendment of the United States Constitution. Article 1 of the California State Constitution, suppression of free speech. I'd say you guys should be ashamed of yourselves, but I don't think you have any.
Closing comments from the president.
No. I think there's one more before that.
No.
Comments from members on the subject matter.
We just did that.
We just did it.
Is that what that was?
Yeah, that's how we got around with the other one.
No. It's confusing. Good.
So I recently had a meeting with Councilman Kokorian where he wanted me to comment to all of you that there are a lot of open committee appointments. If anyone is interested in any of these CD2 committee appointments, if any of these sound like something you'd be interested in, talk to me afterwards. We'll figure it out. There are appointments available in the Community Forest Advisory Committee, the Development Fund Advisory Board, the Domestic Violence Alliance, the Metro Citizens Advisory Committee, the Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and the Valley Historic Preservation Overlay Zone.
How much do they pay? They don't.
Oh.
Yeah.
You get to sit in front of a microphone and talk to people. That's what you love.
Okay. So I think that's.
I have one announcement, if it's possible, about the movies in the park. Do you want to do it?
Movies in the park,
Yeah. The Beaman Park is having movies in the park on June 22nd. Do you have the dates, Nancy? July 13th and August, something like that. But there are 3 dates. It's
June 22nd, July 13th, and August 10th.
There you go. And it's Black Panther, Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, and Incredibles 2. So now, we sometimes get involved, but the reason why I bring it up now is if we do want to get involved and help them, we should put it on a budget committee or whatever is the process to do that. So that's my speech. Thank you.
I just was gonna say, I think all these emails in question ought to be emailed to every board member so you can read them. I don't know why you haven't asked for that.
Huh?
Sure. If this is her proof, you ought to all be reading it.
I thought we're not supposed to discuss it.
Send it along.
There's nothing stopping a stakeholder from emailing all of
Correct.
this.
Just email us then.
Denise.
Did this come up again?
I move we adjourn this circle.
I move we adjourn. Second, yes.